No mute. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Call of Duty Challengers, now jumping into the North American region. My hold shift with me, Visions. My goodness, we were treated to an absolutely unreal affair throughout the European region. We got a chance to look into 3 separate games, all of them very, very tightly contested. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know where to go with this next point outside of the fact that North America, we should expect the unexpected, which very well may mean that we're gonna see chaos all the way throughout this evening.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. It's probably what's going to happen. A lot of chaos in the mix here with a lot of the squads. And, I mean, a lot of the chaos kind of unfolded during the qualifier as well, right? A lot of upsets ended up coming through. A lot of matchups that I just don't think a lot of people were anticipating. So it's made for a very fantastic top 8 that we have right now in the Elite. And I'm excited to see how everyone ends up doing here the very first day.
Indeed, you mentioned a couple of points, and if you're unfamiliar or new to Challengers, I want to give you guys at least how this stage will work. As Austin had mentioned, there was a qualifier that just happened on Saturday. The top 32 teams, based on their Challengers points, squared off in a double elimination bracket, so that way we could get to our current 8 teams for this first stage. Over the course of the next 3 weeks, there will be 3 separate types of format kind of coming in to this play. You're going to start with round robin groups where everybody will play each other once. The top 2 will automatically get to the playoffs. The bottom 2, relegated, done for the stage. Those in the middle will play through a knockout bracket. And then to finish, our final 4 teams will square off in a single elimination playoff bracket. So, to get to know who our 8 teams are, there are some surprises in here. We had some expectations going into the qualifier, but a lot of our top tier teams, Austin, they squared up against each other in the early stages of the lower bracket, which have given us some surprise teams here in this top 8.
Absolutely. I think, a couple coming in here right off the bat for the most part, as I was looking at some of them here, like Bear Claw, where are they? They're right in the middle. Number 4. I think this is one of the ones that I was looking at saying, maybe they can make it in, maybe they cannot, but I think this is definitely one of those squads that could actually shake things up because they found a massive upset up against Texas Nation. They look fantastic. Of course, you can never count out Coach Moach. This is just something that's got to be put into like the Call of Duty rule book or something because he's been able to always find his way back in with a lot of young guns around him. Again, that's with Noisy, Radio, and Co. So very excited to see how they're going to be able to come back into the mix. And then on top of that, we have our, of course, returning challenger champions, Path to Pro, another team to look out for. That, of course, will now have Yeez instead of Saints. So there is a little bit of an interesting dynamic there coming in here for us. But there is definitely going to be still a lot of familiar names that we've seen within challengers, the Cups, you name it. So we'll see how everyone ends up faring here in day 1.
And how about this? This is why North America is always, I think, one of the more exciting regions to watch in Challengers. How about the total number of former pros that we had in the CDL last year that now are, again, needing to reprove themselves in Challengers this year? That's just from last year at Cold War. It doesn't even include those that were pro during Black Ops 4, Modern Warfare before that, that are still looking to prove themselves and get into the league. On top of that, so many new young guns that very well may be the next Standy, Sib, or Pred that we've kind of seen throughout the CDL kickoff. A lot of exciting things coming through. But with that, let's take some time here, Austin, to set up our first overall match. Bear Claw going up against Path to Pro. You kind of teased us a little bit. Bear Claw upset the number 1 seed in the Elite qualifiers. They now have a chance to beat our potential former champs from Cold War, at least 3 of the 4 of them.
That's right. 3 out of the 4. I mean, coming in here, it is still pretty much the same roster. You have Spart, Proloot, Mohawk, all these guys very familiar with one another. And I would say that, bringing in Yeez is someone that they're also very familiar with, a lot of trust. And I mean, if you were ever to send like one team to like the Olympics for esports or something like that was just for S&D, it would be this squad, right? Like this is the S&D team if you could ever assemble one. All 4 of these guys have come up through the search and destroy scene. I'm very excited to see how they're going to end up doing without Saints, because a big conversation point that I've had is that Saints has been around for about 12 years as well. He's a veteran in the scene. He's won multiple championships throughout multiple titles. And trying to replace him is never going to be easy. Yeez is a top prospect, but they're certainly going to miss out on some leadership, certainly going to miss out on some experience. So we'll see how this team ends up doing, without Saints in the mix now.
Well, we'll take a look more detailed at those rosters at a later point, but for now, how about the best of 5 series set and a Desert Siege search? We only had like Tuscan, Berlin, and Bacage through Europe. That's no right. Desert Siege was even on the table for us through Europe. So Desert Siege will make its first appearance here in Challengers for Vanguard. Excited to see it. Gavudu, also map number 1 for us in the hard point. A double dose of Tuscan could potentially be on the table as well for 3 and 4, and then Berlin map 5. And here's the interesting thing, Gavudu map number 1. I feel like almost all the time we see Bocage map number 1, where SMGs really dictate the tempo and pace. Now we're going to get a specific battle largely focused on what the automatons bring to the table, Visions.
Yes, the automatons, it's hard not to talk about them, right? And how impactful some of the players are going to be on the map with those bad boys in their hands. So, I mean, this is where I certainly think that a lot of the Bocage bans here in the veto process likely came through here for Path to Pro. I think that, you know, people like Mohawk, Spart, love to be able to get that third AR in the mix here as well. With, I believe, should be Yeez, and ProLoot will likely be doing a lot of the objective work. But, I mean, I feel like this is definitely going to be right up their avenue for as far as what they would want. But to be fair, you got to give some credit over to Mochila, who is probably, you know, one of the most staple ARs here in the lobby for as far as what he brings to the table. And you can just always count on him to make sure that he's on the rotations, locking down spawns here for you. So a lot of long range maps, I feel like is going to be good for a lot of the AR players that we have in the lobby to showcase their talents.
Look, we could sit here, we could podcast over all 8 of these players.
Oh, yeah,
we could spend 10 minutes on each player, easy, no problems. The biggest thing, though, when you kind of compare rosters, when we were kind of looking at these teams before we went live today and yesterday when we were doing our notes, was you kind of look at this team of Radial, Mochila, Noisy, and Welly and think, man, I don't know if you really want to get into those long-range maps against players like Mohawk and Spart, who have been lights out as ARs over the course of the last 2 years. Mohawk in particular, you know, he kind of floated around with decent teams throughout most of the year in Cold War, but then was by far one of the MVP's considerations for challengers by NA playoffs. And all that was done with the Krig in his hands. So you worry, I think, a little bit about the flexibility that comes with Spart, ProLoot, and Yeez. Obviously, you know what they bring to the table with SMGs. And for Bearclaw, man, I don't know. You've got to find a way to respond at range, and we'll see. Here we go. We're kicking off North American Challengers with a Gavudu and a mad rush over towards the Flak Tower.
It's a mad rush for sure, as we typically see it. A lot of early engagements. Usually you're going to run 2 and 2 off the rip to see if you can get some submachine guns, at least in the area of the objective. And now Yeez has been able to come right back off his spawn. He clears out 1. So you're going to be able to get a bit of control now for Path to Pro inside the point.
Yeah, really good stuff here for Path to Pro so far. And for Bearclaw, just trying to lock things down at the moment, kind of playing from 2 sides of this hill, which is not a terrible idea. You put a lot of pressure on those players inside the hill to keep their lives, and you also at least consider what could happen coming forward into hill number 2. But as soon as 3-for-1 comes through, Bearclaw will break back in. Essentially dead even game, even exchange over the first hard point, and I'm telling you, CDL kickoff taught us a lot of things, including apparently, you know, the ability to just use a pistol on a ladder.
Yeah, anytime I'm ever going up that ladder, I'm always doing the exact same thing because you never know who you're going to catch off guard. But inside the point right now, Path to Pro, they do have some numbers. Radial's waiting outside. He's been able to stack up a couple kills in a row, has a nice read onto ProLoot, but can't finish off the gunfight. So you are looking at Path to Pro, who did have control, but some of those ARs that we talked about here actually clear out a lot of Path to Pro here at the top of the boat. So they're going to lose just about all the control they had, and now we're going to get a bit of a flip for Bearclaw Esports.
Yeah, really good break attempt here for Bearclaw. And, you know, big shout-outs to Chris Radial running the sole SMG here for Bearclaw. Gets around the hard point, opens up some space, and now Mochila takes use of that. 3 in a row for Coach Moch before he eventually drops. Trades come through, though, so Yeez cannot do too much to influence what's happening on hill. And for now, actually, wait a second, Path to Pro are actually still funneling some numbers down towards the dock side, and Welly up top is going to be in a position to stall out across over to P3. This is actually a winnable rotation for Bearclaw, even though they're still technically kind of far away from the hill itself.
Yeah, despite the close spawn back here on this P3 hill, you can very much get spawn trapped if you're not careful, but a couple of the key gunfights have been able to at least work themselves out of it. Noisy, positioned up top, or rather in front of the rock. 9 and 5 right now, 2 in a row, reads the third, just absolutely smokes Mohawk. Waiting for the next one. He's ripping off heads. I mean, that player was not there. He likely would have found him inside the point, but how about the play from Yeez, able to play his life?
Yeah, Yeez's finesse is next to none, you feel like, a lot of times throughout North American Challengers. He's done well, like you mentioned, to keep his life and stay away from danger up top. Naturally, we start to tip him, and the opposite starts to unfold. But largely speaking for Path to Pro, considering you didn't have a good position in front of the hard point, that's not a bad salvage of this third hill. The scrap temp's going to be yours. Bearclaw's already on rotation. Sent the Mohawk to see if he can open up space through mid-map. Unfortunately, not expecting 2 players means Bearclaw will lock down this rotation and open up the radar tower without any contest whatsoever.
Not a dead even game, but well, this is where things get really difficult on Gabutu. Where are they going to be positioned? And well, Welly inside of the flat gun gets a bit of assistance in team shots from Mochila, and the two of them deal with all three players from Path to Pro. So they're going to have to rethink their approach, but it looks like Prelude's still going to try to fight for some of the control. He does it all alone and will be punished, but look at Welly. Just goes on 7 in a row, earned himself full streaks. But with that said, Spart has been able to clean up 2, and they do manage to at least get their feet inside of the hard point.
And it's a full 4-man feed. Now the glide bomb can come down. They know exactly what's happening as far as the spawns are concerned, but the glide bomb is not going to be successful enough to allow Bearclaw to necessarily just re-win out this scrap time. They still have to fight for it. Path to Pro doing the exact same thing. They're reinforcing through jungle. Welly, who's 14-6, not able to find a single kill there. So it's on to Radial to try to finesse around the hill itself. Tracks down Prelude, and that'll be good for maybe 10 seconds for the time if he can win the last 1v1. Not able to. Mochila still trying to play for spawn trapping. And actually, at the moment, the spawns will kind of be neutral. It's all through the middle of the map. I'm a bit surprised by it. We're going to get a 50-50 fight here for P5.
Yeah, we are going to get a 50-50 fight. Both teams could very much take control of it. Mohawk down low, starting to already do some of the early scouting. But they know, I think, one player is up top. Spart's going to make sure that the pinch is good, the spawns are good, and now they've won the gunfights out front. On the point, this is looking pretty solid overall. Yeez has been able to clean up 2. They have one more player lingering over here, which is going to be Welly. I think he knows he's missing, and good on Spart to be able to read that. He's now put himself on a bit of a spree, but will be taken down from Noisy.
Really good corrections here from Path to Pro. I won't lie, the first 4 hills have started to set a trend where Bearclaw Esports were doing everything they needed to put themselves in successful spots. But this bend but not break situation for Path to Pro has allowed them a chance to take the lead and likely also secure most of the scrap time. Actually, pardon me, Welly up top inside the boat actually makes safe the contest for scrap. So just a 9-point game, dead even so far. It's just been kind of a weird war where Bearclaw are trying to play with a little bit with the speed that we saw them during the Elite Qualifiers, by the way. They came out hot during quals, being able to upset #1 Texas Nation in their bracket to qualification, and a lot of it was by speed and dictated rotations that come through on important hills. They're doing that well, but Path to Pro are still finding ways to claw their way into hills and continue to contest.
Oh, Radial, he's been able to find 3, and Welly gets the 4th. Unfortunate teammate, but that's fine. The two of them basically deal with every single player. And now Radial, who's on 5 in a row, has earned the glide bomb. Could be big for some of the future hills here for yourself, but Bearclaw Esports, with the position that they're currently in, might be able to get the majority of their time unless we see this hit be successful. It looks like they are going to dedicate a couple players into it. Path to Pro need to find Radial, who's still on the spree, though. He's finding 6 in a row, make it 7 in a row, and all that scrap time is over to Bearclaw.
It's just the scrappiest group of 4 you could possibly put together, right? Like, Radial, Noisy, experience playing at Ottawa with the College COD League last year. Radial, 8 in a row right here. A lot of it just done by playing off of his teammates, waiting for sound cues, waiting for call-outs. And the IGLing from Mochila has been nearly flawless. The rotational timings, when they're pushing out, it's been so darn good. And it's just allowing Bearclaw kind of a little bit of an advantage when it comes down to knowing what's coming up next. So as we get into the second hard point, a lot of pressure on Path to Pro to put together a good hill. Possibly not just reduce this lead, but get into a lead of your own, and a 3-for-1 exchange will definitely help that happen.
A lot of time going over, 10-point differential. Noisy on the early rotation to New. See if he might be able to successfully flip out these spawns. He's able to find Spart. Not ready for Noisy already being in the back, and it looks like he's going to be good here for a bit of a flip. Mochila going to drop, but they're able to contest some of this time. Welly's even going to put some additional pressure here. So 140 to 142. Path to Pro, they do get a lot of time off of this hill, but they're going to be a tad bit late in the rotation until we see Mohawk and Prelude actually win a couple of key gunfights.
Think about it as the spawns are still in play for Bearclaw Esports, so even though there are some vulnerabilities, they close the gaps very quickly, and a lot of that did come off of Mochila's double. He's the one to step into hill, and Chris will find a double with the glide bomb. That will put so much pressure onto Path to Pro to even set up a bit of a break attempt, because now Mohawk is going to be feeling like, okay, I got to counter this, and this should result in a kill on the point. It sure will. And that now kind of turns the numbers, kind of, you know, the tables have turned a little bit here. Just down to who finds these next opening gunfights. Mohawk mid-map can't do too much, leaving Sparty by himself. This will be a 1v question mark for him for the next 30 seconds or so. Teammates trying to get there to help, but look at Bearclaw. They're just chalking and rotating for the most part. They're contesting mid-map. It's going to completely separate. not just Spart from the rest of his team, but it actually flips the spawns around. What a big call that is for BearClaw.
That's a massive macro moment. I mean, able to also get on some of this time. You have your position in the new point. And I mean, this could be a very influential moment in this Gavutu hardpoint, where you're going to have to try to break this hill, and we know how difficult it is to try to coordinate breaks. But last time, Path to Pro did get in here fairly quickly. We'll see if Welly can kind of stop it, as he will drop down the streak. Couple trades back and forth. How much damage is the streak going to really bring in? It looks like it doesn't find anything, and Prolute's able to keep his life in the back.
It's block spawns, though. Noisy's going to spawn up, actually, so he's got an opportunity to try to help around the back. It's Prolute who's trying to keep it mixy. And Prolute gets a double. How massive is that for Path to Pro? One more set of spawns coming up for BearClaw Esports, but the problem is, as favorable as you would think that you're spawning close, this is Spawn Trap City in the background. Good nades coming through. BearClaw clawing their way out of this backside spawn, now getting their way onto point. Mohawk has to respond to it. 2 in a row. Now the third. No. Welly will get the best of them, but it doesn't make a difference because Path to Pro still have one more member to survive. 10 seconds for Yeez to fight off the rest of BearClaw. And at the moment, he's just going to play his life, even do a little bit of dancing. Good pre-fire, but Noisy gets the best of him. But even still, for Path to Pro, that's good, valuable contest time for you on the scrap, considering the fact that you've just freely rotated over to P5.
Yeah, they recovered really well, but you still have streaks in the mix. How much can you find here? Radial is at least able to get Mohawk off the top of the boat. So one of the ARs is not going to be able to kind of gatekeep you in the back here. As Mochila is searching for the second, he got the call out, won't be able to lock down Spart. Spart found that second, that could have been big. But Welly there, able to open it up, and now this is a chance to be able to at least keep the hill a little bit neutral while you wait for the rest of BearClaw to try to catch up with you and maybe even fight for the time.
2 for 1, the initial exchange, and Mochila wins another big 1v1 at the end. That will allow Chris a chance to jump on in. 182-210. 3-man hit for Path to Pro away from the hill, favoring this setup for P1. It's a risky call. You're essentially going to allow this game to get to about tied, and you're going to have to kind of bunker up in this hard point. If you don't catch it by my drift here, Austin, I'm not feeling all that great about this call. You've got to find value for Mohawk. He's got to destroy these players coming through beachfront. Gets the first long-range shots on Mochila. Has to duck to cover, and now you worry about where's the next hit coming from for BearClaw.
Path to Pro, they're in a good position. Bit of high ground around the flat gun, but Noisy's been able to break it open with a kill. It's up to Yeez to try to hold his ground. Can no longer do so. Prolute, the last one up. Mochila finds him with the automaton right here. That's a crucial moment for BearClaw Esports to make sure this game does not get away from them. They still have presence on the hill. They still got numbers flooding in Radial. They're starting to put together some massive multi-kills.
That is a huge double. Space now for Noisy to stay survivable inside the hill. But now the pinch. Noisy gets one. We're on the backside. Good help from Welly. SMG's now in hand for a lot of BearClaw. They're going to continue to find success on this first hill. Path to Pro, chalk and rotate. They're making their way to P2, but Radial's on the cross. He's had himself a great game so far, and a lot of it has been in moments like this. Can he find more than just the one? There are so many Path to Pro members here, and Radial does not seem to care. A double for Radial. Now up the ladder. Going to be shut down by Spart, but Welly's there to pick up where he had left off, and we've got a 226 to 224 as Welly gets a double.
Welly for the double. Welly for the triple. One more member up top on the cliff. And Yeez is able to at least get there in time to get the AR out of the picture, but it's 236 to 224. The game very well could end here for us. Prolute, though, might have just saved it with that double. He's going to take top boat control. He's got a great lockdown with the automaton, and his teammates now are inside the point.
BearClaw can just contest for another second or two. They can back up and rotate to P3, and they've done enough here, likely, to extend this. Or have they? Hold on a second. Clean kill feed comes through. Radial still needs the touch. He's not able to. It's a 4-man feed for Path to Pro. Can anybody from BearClaw get here in time? Noisy desperately trying to hop forward, but it's Prolute on the cross. 4 seconds left. Path to Pro, another 4-man wipe. And BearClaw, there was that one moment where they were like, I think we did it. I think we contested. But they did not touch for long enough. Path to Pro win on the second hill.
Oh, man. First map, 250 to 238. So many crucial moments, but that one in the end where you talk about the high ground and the difference that can make, especially with the boat on the map like Gavutu, you get a couple ARs posted up there, and it's so difficult to try to rip them off those headies there, Alan. Prolute, Mohawk, they lock it down, and they have a great read on the spawns. They know exactly where they're going to be, and Bear Claw basically have to hope that they can get across scot-free without getting tagged from up top, because they just don't have the time to take those gunfights. I mean, oh, it's just coming down. You thought they might have had enough to be able to send it one more, and if so, they could have won it, but just a real good heads-up play coming in from Path to Pro to also make sure that they held on to the majority of that time and closed it out there.
Man, there were a couple of moments in there where Path to Pro make almost a surprising call to kind of chalk with like 15, 20 seconds left, and then miss out maybe on an opportunity to actually get a favorable scrap fight. And even behind that, just in those chalk and rotates, they're not really fully reading some of the full rotations that were coming through Bear Claw themselves, but in the end, just stack the point, win forehead. That's all it is, really, isn't it? So it's 250, 238. Take a look back at what our series layout will look like for the rest of it. If you joined us here late, a Desert Siege. We saw none of this in Europe. It'll be our first look at the map here for the North American region, and then at least one Tuscan, pending, of course, Bear Claw can scrap their way through one of those two maps. We'll see another one, and then potentially a map 5 Berlin. I need to get your thoughts here, though, Austin, because I don't think the two of us have actually casted a Desert Siege together before.
No.
And I'm curious to see what your thoughts are about the map's layout, how it flows, you know, what the focuses largely are going to be here for the Search and Destroy.
Yeah, personally, I mean, maybe it's unpopular opinion, but I actually enjoy the map in S&D at least. I think that there is a lot of buildings. There's a lot of floors that you have to watch out for. So it can be really punishing at times, but I'm a really big fan of the fact that, you know, having a really strong sniper player on this map sometimes makes or breaks how good the team can really be. And something that, you know, at least I've got to pick up from Path to Pro is that you can set up, you know, a lot of great offensive pushes. I think specifically it's the B bomb site, I want to say, that's over by the tracks. This is something that Path to Pro really like to favor, where they just kind of let Prolute go prone, just set bombs down, and then they have a perfect post plant setup. So I think that the map plays really well. You know, you can have a lot of big sniper plays, but you can also get really aggressive, and you can look for a lot of rushes on this map, and really use the middle of the map to be able to create some space for your team.
That middle of the map, right around University, it's been really interesting. We saw it a handful of times in the CDL kickoff, teams that kind of set up around University, throw nades one bomb site, and then re-rotate back through underneath and get to the other, and it's puts a lot of pressure on the defense that, you know, honestly, unless you're really dictating numbers to push forward and take control of the mid-map, you kind of have to rotate through your own spawn. That's the only real safe alley that you have to work with to go between B and A largely. So I don't know, I'll be curious to see who tries to get most aggressive through the middle of the map, because I think you mark a couple of really key players, and I think for, you know, what it's worth, Yeez is in a position to potentially be that guy to slip through for the side of Path to Pro and just make a mess of things. Whether that's offense or defense doesn't seem to make too much of a difference, but taking a look overall at what this team profile looks like, as we mentioned, Mohawk, Spartan, Prolute really turned everything around at the end of the year. Playing with Saints, as you had mentioned, that is your challenger champs from Cold War, and their Search and Destroy was just barely touched, it felt like, at times throughout the playoffs. You add in Yeez, who's now the 5th member for the Florida Mutineers, with potential expectations, depending on how that roster forms with the current meta, that he could be called up sooner rather than later. You're excited about what this team should be able to bring to the table, at least based on early expectations off of not just the roster, but the results that they've been able to find so far.
Absolutely. I think this team has been very strong for as far as a couple of the early cups. They've looked really good. Still looking to get back up to where they were, but, you know, I'm not too worried about it overall. I think this squad is certainly going to be able to get back up to where they were. And it is an interesting situation where you look at the beginning of Cold War, at least, and it was really the trio of Saints, Spart, and Prolute that played on that NYSL Academy roster that was starting to find a lot of success. And then Mohawk, had kind of come in and completed that team for me, right? With the just the slaying power that he brought, with the balance of being able to throw himself on the objective, play for spawns. He was able to fulfill that kind of flex role, I thought, really well within the team at times. And then, you know, now this year, obviously Saints is not here. He's taking a mental health break, and Yeez is coming in. And, you know, I hit on this at the top of the broadcast where, you know, is Yeez going to be able to fully fulfill what Saints was bringing to the roster? That I don't know for sure, because that's a lot of experience, it's a lot of veteranship, but we do know that really the kid has a lot of raw talent, and of course is on the bench of the Mutineers. So we're looking forward to see what ends up happening here for these guys. I know that they are very dedicated. These guys grind, they go over VODs. They're very much always talking about, you know, what we need to do to improve round after round, hard point after hard point, whenever I'm listening to them scrim. So I'm very excited to see how they're going to be able to evolve throughout the year.
And I think just you come into the year with a lot of confidence, not only because of the fact that Yeez is part of the Florida Mutineers bench, but Spart, obviously, after the first couple of cups,
LAG,
picked back up by LAG. Everyone is wondering when is ProLoot going to get picked up because he was unbelievable all last year alongside Saints. And then obviously considerations for Mohawk. I know there's been whispers like, oh, like they tried to pick him up, but, you know, Canadian visa problems and stuff like that. You know, all four of these players you feel like are next up,
Steel caliber,
literally, or they are about to, you know, one thing goes wrong, they should be at the top of the pecking order when it comes to offers coming through, at least based on our witness test, which has been the case largely from the last 2 years. So we'll see. Search and Destroy has been, I would say, their bread and butter in the past. But the thing is, as much as we're crediting this Path to Pro team, you got to remember they were upset by the number 14 seed in the qualifiers. So
they were.
You know, it's one of those things, like you mentioned, they're still figuring it out as well. So you can't really just sit there and say, yeah, we're previous champs, we should cruise through this no problem. And hey, we kind of got our first exhibit of that on the Bacage, or pardon me, on the opening hard point that we saw there in Gavudu. So we'll see how things unfold here for the Desert Seed Search.
And that's sometimes kind of a good thing too. You have a really rough go in the qualifier, and that's kind of the kick you need to be like, okay, we got to smarten up and start improving. You know what I mean? And get back up to where we were. That's what we'll be looking at. But already the sniper plays coming in. It is going to be Spart. Takes a shot. That one's just going to go a little wide, and well, already he's been able to take him out. So a big kill here. Gets the sniper player out of the mix. 4v3 now on the retake.
And ProLoot's utility does not connect after the plan had come through. He's kind of stuck in this position where you have to hope that Yeez can help you. Oh, big gunfight onto Noisy. Radial. Wrong corner. Free elimination. Now it's just down to Yeez. 1v3. Needs to defuse. Poked at from behind, and then different angle will get involved to finish the kill. Good first search round here for Bearclaw. Good distraction, I would say, just to keep Spart busy, and then eventually just overwhelm and get the bomb planted.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's also such a relief, too, once Willie finds that kill, because you're like, oh, thank God. All right. Sniper player is no longer in the mix. It's going to make things a little easier if we need to collapse on someone. Don't have to worry about being pieced or not being able to trade him out. And I think Welly is someone that was a huge player for Bearclaw Esports during the qualifier with the way that he was pulling off 1v3s, 1v2s, like unrealistic situations he was able to win. And he was doing a lot of it in S&D, and there you have it again. He's not even using the sniper round. He is challenging Spart with the automaton across the map.
Dude, that is an unbelievable back-to-back round display from Welly at range. Noisy checks ProLoot, but the trade is there. And even with the incredible gunfight from Welly, we find ourselves in a 2v2. Bomb down in University, Radial nearby, as he very well may be able to hear the pitter-patter of Yeez up top. Just depends. Mohawk trying to keep the train yard safe, and, well, he hasn't moved. He's just happy to be kind of presiding over the B site. Point of contact comes through! Yeez! How do you win that?
How does he win that? That's gross right there. But Yeez might have just been able to open up the site. Well, he is still alive, though. Oh, the timing here could be big. I don't know if he spotted the second, but he's got to know he's close. Takes the shots. This is also for the glide, like you talk about. But he gets caught on the reload. How about the repeak? And Path to Pro will make sure that they do close out the round with a numbers advantage.
This is a bold peek from Yeez. I mean, Welly's chasing you down, you know it. And he's got the angle to potentially stop the bomb from being planted. The only great option that Yeez has is to jump out and hope he finds a timing and take that gunfight. What a heads-up play from Yeez. And Welly's incredible opening quelled, stopped, and turned against him for a 1-1 tally. And so far, it's, you know, let's just take this ancient Greek style. You send out your best champion, we'll send out ours. I just want to see more Welly and Yeez 1v1s.
Noisy with the bomb. Looks like B has been the target, but this time ProLoot finds Welly.
It's aggressive too.
So yeah, very nice pickup, and yeah, he's already going to be on the other side of the map. Here is going to be Mohawk. So they kind of got them pinched inside of the middle building right now. They can bounce between either side if they so wish, but you can just see it. They do not have a lot of information on the players of Path to Pro right now.
Path to Pro, if you were to take a live probability of them winning this round, it'd be like 90%. And they know it's not B. They know they have to be stuck in trains, and nobody's seen Mohawk yet, but Radial with the whereabouts to turn around and double check the flank finds the kill. Noisy gets one more. How has this unfolded? Path to Pro had everything they could possibly want and more. Now it's up to Yeast to play recovery, and boy, has he. Spart over the top. Once again, goes a bit awry with a sniper. We got a 1v1, and it's going to come through quickly. Yeez, unbelievable. The hero of Path to Pro for another round.
Yeah, he saved it. He saved the entire round right there. How about the 3-piece snaps right here onto Noisy? Oh, I was a little worried because I was agreeing with you. I was like, yeah, 90% chance. Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate right now with the way that they're closing in around them. And then all of a sudden, Radial wins a 1, and then we see Noisy catch the second, but he saves the play, gets that double, and then just sprints at the last one. And that's also the glide bomb, which is so valuable on a map like Desert Siege.
I mean, that should guarantee, you would feel like, with, again, how good Path to Pro has been in Search, it should guarantee a round. Just depends on when they want to use it, and it's going to be right now.
Right away.
Lots of information over towards A. Scrambling to get indoors are the members of Bear Claw, but Mochilla will still fall. And while this is happening, the bomb gets planted by Prolute.
I like this. Bomb goes down. Prolute will be able to exit safely. 4v3 with the help of the glide bomb. Noisy's coming off of the A site here, and he's actually been able to crouch all the way through, but Mohawk finds him as soon as he pops his head out a little too far, and now you're kind of caught in between. Pretty tough situation, as Radial's got to get through 4. He'll find the first one, but no real time on the clock.
Impressive, though, to at least find the first and give him a look at a second, but that's just a great execution overall. You get the read off the glide bomb, you even get a kill. Hey, it's 3-member stack over towards trains. Just go and plant, Prolute. We're good. You get one on the other side of the map at worst, and it works out absolutely perfectly for him. So it guarantees the round, but hey, it's still very early. That's the biggest thing here. We're in a 3-1 count. Now this at least one streak's off the board. The thing about it is, Yee stayed alive and found a 6th kill. So strafing run is now on the table for Path to Pro to potentially use as well.
And over to B. That's been the favored play so far for Bear Claw Esports. We'll have to see if Spart decides to just keep this automaton out, or if he wants to try to bring that sniper back into play. It looks like there is a sniper in play there. Willie gets a little peek of the scope, and well, he's got no fear. Re-peeked him again as soon as he switched away, but Noisy is able to get this bomb down.
And he stays alive again through the utility. I am absolutely bamboozled and baffled of how Noisy has not only gotten the plant off, but once again, Bear Claw do not get affected by stuns and nades to try to stop that plant. Yee's on 7. No reason to not go for it, really, at least you would think. Oh, he's seen Radial. Problem would be Mochilla is tight. Inside mid. Holy beams. He should have an idea on where Welly is as well, because that information was given by Spart. Problem would have been the clock in the end. And Welly will make sure that that 1v3 doesn't get any closer to being an embarrassing little slight there for Bear Claw.
Yeah. I think Mochilla on the minimap also was given the information the whole way through to Welly as he was pushing through the back here. So very nicely done. The setup, either way, likely works out in the trade, but he just doesn't have enough time on the clock because his teammates are fortunately gone, sent to the next round as no one was able to stay up, and Spart is yet to find any success with his sniper rifle. Welly has taken him out every single time he's brought it out thus far.
Yeah, not a single scope has even gotten a hit marker. This is the right call. With how fast Bear Claw are playing, if you don't get the lockdown, put it away. Get an AR into the mix, and even that, Radial SMG hit, defensive aggression through B plat. Bomb will be planted at A, but the status of this post plant is still in question, as Prolute is not going to have a safe exit with where these players are positioned for Bear Claw. Just comes down to, do you even want to go anywhere, or do you just stay here? Big 1v1 win from Willie that makes safe the opposite side of the map, and now Bear Claw 4v2. They should know every single fight will be in front of them as they try to retake.
Smoke is good. Just try to create a bit of chaos here. Radial searching for some info. We'll be able to find Prolute. Almost a second. Mohawk though for 2. And now Noisy and Welly are able to come through with the collapse just in the nick of time to make sure that they get that diffuse in. And it comes back to this opening kills time and time again from Welly on the opposite side of the map.
Look, one of our big keys to Bear Claw finding another upset win versus this Path to Pro team was come out hot, come out fast, set the tempo, which is difficult to do when you're playing up against the Cold War champs and a team that has proven themselves through the first 4 cups, no question. But they don't care. Bearclaw has really stepped up the tempo, timing, pacing that you would need to see to play your game. Path to Pro have largely, outside of Yeez kind of taking over in these first handful of rounds, they found nothing in the early 30 seconds of these rounds. Finally, they've got something to work with as a long AR fight comes through, and then Yeez also tries to push through B plat for a double. And this will be the first convincing concede so far for Path to Pro in this search.
Oh, there's the last one. All right, Path to Pro. Yeez is just finding these avenues where he's just running. He's finding a double, and he's not getting traded. Like, we might start to see respawn numbers of non-traded kills on that scoreboard by the end of it. It's been ridiculous the amount of times we've seen 2 or 3 pop into that feed here so far. And, you know, that's one of the faster rounds that we've gotten in the mix. And Path to Pro are going to be able to at least pull ahead 4-3. I mean, yeah, Yeez is 11-3. He might be able to work for another set of streaks here.
Dude, for real.
We'll see.
That's an unreal stat line for 7 rounds in. Spart, this has been just the 1v1 of the entire map between him and Welly. But this time, the SMGs for both sides, all focus, bottom University. Other side of the wall. That's where the line is drawn in the sand. As Yeez is close by, bomb collected. Radial and Noisy just kind of checking out the bookshop. And it's just literally like a straight dead line of green and blue arrows right here in the middle of the map. But it's just one wall separating each of them. Mohawk and Spart make a play. And now it's just down to Noisy. Gets one, gets away. That's also the bomb carrier. That's down Noisy. Runs into Yeez, but unexpectedly. And now it's down to Welly for the 1v2.
Yeah, I have to wonder if they... Oh, this is such a good read. They know that Welly typically plays B, you know, all by himself and defends it. And they've basically called that he's rotated over to A. And they've got the bomb down with the timing to be able to exit perfectly. So Welly left all alone in the 1v2. No shot this works. No way.
Thought about it. Pulls back. Misses the slide to his right. Maybe his teammates get the call for him. Welly comes back, finds the kill into Mohawk. Now 1v1 with Yeez. Yeez has been icy in these clutches. But as you had mentioned, Welly did the same thing through qualifiers. He's going to have to hop again. Backs away. Almost pulls Yeez towards him, but Yeez gets a read saying, nope, you're not on it. I'm just going to back away, keep playing the clock. And it is a, you know, patience is a virtue after all. And that will be what determines the round. We'll go 5-3, even though Welly wins the gunfight.
Yeah, it is a big kill in the end. Oh, little body shots
Okay,
here.
Welly. All right, brother.
I was like, give me the gunfight. Where you going, man? But, I mean, it is actually a big kill, too, because if Yeez finds that one, or if he's able to go into the next round here, he's a couple off of earning yet another glide. So might not end up meaning anything because they are just 1 point away from winning anyway, but still could end up being implications as Welly's able to find himself on a couple in a row there. Almost a shot at a 1v2. Just can't get that diffused there. Not enough time. So now we go into what is going to be round number 9. It's an offense. Mainly Bearclaw have been focused around this B site, playing for that plant and exiting safely. But Spart's changed up his position, and he's going to get a shot. What a snap.
Oh, and almost gets the flick onto Radial topside windows. Radial will stay alive after he's able to tally a kill in response. 2v3 early. Mohawk punishes even further as once again he gets deep through the offensive side of the map. So it's Radial, a required 1v3 to extend the map. And honestly speaking, he slipped the net. Path to Pro still think he's kind of mid-map. That's not the case. Isolates another 1v1. 45 seconds for the 1v2 here, Austin. And, well, the question's just going to be, where does Radial want to go with this bomb? He's got to have to make a decision here soon.
Yeah, the good news, though, is that both players are kind of isolated. So if you can find the gunfight, there's a chance you don't get traded right away. But the positioning here over by Proloot, it's going to make things, I think, a tad bit difficult unless he comes all the way behind him. But I don't think that's going to be the case. He's going to run over to B. I don't think Proloot's going to spot him, but that smoke is certainly going to signal him that he's on the bomb.
Nade does not connect, but doesn't make a difference. Proloot just spams away at the bomb site and eventually finds the hit markers to confirm the kill. And, well, Path to Pro, a lot of it relied on Yeez early.
No, it sure did.
So many clutches from Yeez. But in the end, you know, Spart did, you know, throwing the sniper rifle away for the automaton, much more successful for him. He finishes at a dead even 6-6. But the 13-5 from Yeez with 1,300 damage. Lord have mercy.
Alan, 10 of those 13 kills were not traded. Like, he was just
Thank
piecing
you.
everything.
I was leaving that for you.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at that thing and like, how many was it? How many was it? I was talking it up the whole time, and yeah, 10 out of 13 on a map like Desert Siege. I mean, that is really one heck of a performance coming through there for Yeez. We already kind of highlighted the fact that he's coming in to replace Saints, but something you can always rely on with Yeez is what he brings to the table in Search and Destroy. We learned that a lot last year with UT Crew. I mean, he's been playing with one of the best S&D masterminds, you know, of all time, Tupac. So, I mean, he's definitely showcasing everything he's learned over the years and all that time he's put into it right there in that map. That was a big individual performance to make sure that they did go up 2-0 here in the series.
That right there is you know, we talked about this during Europe, but I think it's probably important for us to re-hit this. This first stage of Elite is crucially important when it comes down to raising your stock and being in a prime position to immediately fill in for whatever CDL team or teams has a terrible first stage. So we take a look at our series really quick and we reconsider what that may mean for Yeez and the Florida Mutineers pending what happens there. That is a absolutely incredible performance from Yeez. So many moments you can look back at to see how is he going to play Search and Destroy, what kind of natural intuition does he have. All of it exemplified at the highest level. Incredible stuff. So a 2-0 tally, and now Tusken for the control. This, you know, to be fair, this is the one game mode where we don't have a lot of eye tests on what it looks like to be played at this level. The players themselves, you know, up until the qualifier, they had not played it in a competitive tournament yet. So not a lot of sample size on what the teams want to do in the first place, let alone how they're going to counter one another.
Yeah, for Path to Pro, I did see them play this map mode combo a couple times during the qualifier, and there was definitely moments where you know, it was shaky. They were getting a little frustrated in the comms on who was watching what needs to be picked up at what times. You know, a little bit of that blame game that was thrown around, I think, with just the overall frustration of Control not really coming in. But as you said, it is still very new, so there is still a lot of learning that has to be done with the game mode as a whole. We saw that, of course, a little bit earlier on in the day, but the teams are starting to figure out different ways that you can approach it. I mean, we got to see, at least in EU, teams finally finding a bit of success attacking, you know, the unfavored zone right away, being able to get ticks of progress or being able to capture the zone in full here. So we'll see if North America kind of just goes a little more standard over to A off the bat, or if we are going to get some of those intertwining pushes, you know, to B, just to kind of shake things up overall, or at least get that first tick of progress and then bounce back over to A with a close spawn.
Well, let's take a moment here before we jump into map number 3 to learn more about this Bear Claw team, because, hey, they came to the qualifier, and, you know, shout-outs Proper. You'll see him tomorrow. He called that this is an underdog team that very well could lead the qualification and maybe even upset Texas Nation. They did all of those things. And for Radial and Noisy, like we had mentioned just briefly, College COD representatives from Ottawa, now kind of focusing obviously on what's happening with the Path to Pro. They join up with Welly, who is a really interesting player to kind of keep an eye on. Last year, he really did have a breakout year, a couple of representations in some of the elite stages, but the year before that in Modern Warfare, he was a part of that really core 5-man roster of Aerial Arise that, you know, floated around top 12, top 8 conversations, had a pretty solid playoff, but Welly was the one that, when we watched that team, was just like, yo, this kid's a little different than everybody else on his squad. And last year, a chance to play with some better players, obviously led to more success. And now this year, it kind of feels like this whole team is taking a bit of a chance on one another. You know, you got the old head of Mochilla, but then Radial, not been in the elite, I don't think, at least as of last year. Super successful start to the year. And then Tyler Bailey. Noisy is just one of the nastiest players that we've had a chance to cast the CCL. And obviously his success in Challengers has been well merited.
It sure has been. I think there's just so much talent like on this team, and I think a lot of people slept on them coming into the qualifier. Overall, you know, besides Proper, of course. Yeah. To be fair, I remember Andy talking about it on the night of, and I was like, maybe, like, I wasn't like totally convinced, but I could like see it with the talent that they have. But I will say, I think Radial in specific has been a little bit surprising to me with the way that he was playing, especially in that first map there, on Gavutu, you know, with the sub in his hand at times as well, being able to put up, you know, over 30 kills, not easy to do. And on top of that, he was also, you know, another important piece of the puzzle during the qualifier. But everyone stepped up. I mean, Welly, I think, was one of the most outstanding, just with the way that he was like 1v3 and 1v2ing. Like, there were situations that, you know, you would like bet the bank on that he wouldn't win it, and he would somehow be able to win out on that. It was just incredible to watch. So we'll see if they can continue to do this. Going into Control, you know what I mean? It is one of those things where you are going to see how everything's going to end up faring as a unit, because these guys do need to get the reps in. At the same time, they have a lot of talent. It's just about putting it up against the likes of Path to Pro, who are equally as good, if not better so far with their results here in Vanguard. So that is kind of the big question here for me, but I've been very excited to see a lot of these Bear Claw esports guys, especially after last year. Noisy wasn't too involved, with a lot of the elites, and didn't have a big year, so it's been a big bounce back.
The thing was, like, you think about Noisy during Modern Warfare, and it was just like, dude, this kid's different. Like,
he was
his
different.
ability to work with an MP5 was unbelievable. Yeah, I remember watching him play during one of the Ashoni lands, and it was just like, yo, this kid is freaking next up, man. He's nuts. And there have been moments where, in the last year, even with Cold War, he showcased that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You look at kind of the comparison between the two rosters, and naturally, if you're an avid follower of North American challengers, you say, the former defending champs, they've got this no problem. That's not necessarily been a guarantee so far, even though they're up 2-0. Tight first map, relatively contested second.
Sure.
Just heroics from Yeez kind of creating some separation, and now we get into, again, one of the more unproven modes that we've had so far, considering that this is the second week that they've played it. Actually, it's still the first week. It's the second time in a competitive environment they've played it.
Noisy already flying at the members of Path to Pro. Good little stun check there. We'll get stunned right back. So information here just about to both squads, and Mohawk does win out on the battle radial. The last one pushed forward needs to be dealt with, and Mohawk has no problem being able to find the second. So good recovery after the start. Did almost get that tick of progress, but now things changing up over on B.
Small moment too, just again, the tempo and pace that we really credited Bear Claw for during their qualifier runs comes out the gate here hot. But what awareness from Yeez to push through that push and just make sure he's in a position to capture and clear anything over towards A for free. Really good heads up. Now Yeez on 3 in a row. There's the easy fourth. Mochilla just lingering towards church as if he was late on a Sunday. And now it's just down to a 1v1 with Noisy. And Noisy will take that, leaving some space to potentially contest over around B, while the rest of his teammates will stack up for what should be an A capture.
And well, this is one of the beauties of the larger maps here when you're attacking, is you can kind of switch up your attack quite quickly, and Noisy able to read a lot of the players exiting off of the B site, which is basically going to stop Yeezy right in his tracks. We'll have to make sure no one else is going to be able to come through for some early ticks of progress. So A will end up going over. We saw player 5 there. I was thinking maybe Spark gets there in time. He finds the kill, but now you have about 1:40 on the clock to start working towards B if you're Bear Claw.
Decision time too for Bear Claw. I mean, Radial's just here to play his life. It's the other three that you have to be kind of at least watching more avidly. What direction do you want to go? Do you want to try to help Radial get out of this position, or do you want to try to maybe put some pressure going through Church? Doesn't seem to make too much of a difference. Welly from this position finally gets his first elimination. He really can't do too much with it. In fact, how about the bold challenge from Proloot? Just hops up and says, I'll take that. Easy kill. That'll be a 4-for-1 exchange, and now all of a sudden you've got Path to Pro all over and around your spawn. That said, though, Proloot, his little parkour moment, does get at least held honestly, and then you finally deal with Yeez inside a command center. That'll open up an avenue.
Still, though, they have to make sure that they get some numbers over to the mid-map, try to pressure Church, and that's been shut down by Spart off screen. And now Mohawk can just simply focus on the front, little bait and switching happening, and they're going to be able to find 3 players on the side of Bear Claw Esports. Everyone coming back off their spawn. Welly does win a pretty tough gunfight there versus Mo, but you're getting pretty low on time. 35 seconds left on this clock. It's 10 lives playing up against 9 here. Path to Pro having the favor.
It's just, this is such a tough position for Bear Claw to get on and get 3 ticks of progress or find the 9 lives. He's going to call for the glide bomb, though. And there are some kills coming through. This can guarantee elimination. That's 3 down. Last player on the corner, no problem. 4 down, 9v6, 17 seconds on the clock, and there's not a kill to speak of for Path to Pro. Pistol for Noisy, 5 in a row for him. One more side door of Church, and it's Noisy for 6. 17.7 on the clock. First tick of progress is good, and the last 3 lives for Path to Pro are about to get flanked by Tyler Berry. Not gonna make a difference. Easy kills from the front, and wow, Bear Claw, last second, able to steal the offense.
Well, that's one way to put the pedal to the metal right there, and it opens up with a couple kills that they get flying out of their spawn past that halfway or 50-yard mark, and then once that happens, Noisy is just left all alone in Church, and he's continuing to find kills after he dropped that glide bomb to clear off one of the players on the point. Gets all that information, allows his team to move in, and I mean 14-4 here in that first round. He got half of the kills all by himself.
Yeah, for real. Dude, that is something different, man. Good first blood for Radial. Defensive play through the middle of the map. Nade over the top. Radial in a little bit of trouble. Has to back away. Oh my goodness. Noisy 7 in a row. And you feel like at a certain point, he's got to lose some gunfight somewhere. And eventually it is Mohawk who's hard scoping down mid lane to deal with him. But that's another set of full streaks. And on top of that, Radial in the same moment has gotten himself a glide bomb. Welly's working on one of his own. And Bearclaw are just all over this control from start to finish.
Yeah, they sure are. Making it pretty difficult. You can just see the desperation, trying to make something happen. Noisy gets caught on the boxes there up top. And well through the middle, Prolutes actually coming through the church alley to make sure there's still pressure on B. And now Radial's going to make the call to use one of the glide bombs that they do have. See if he should be able to find a kill. He does. 3 players end up dropping at that exact same moment. It's only going to be up to 1. Yeez is left alone on the point. He's got 2 players to deal with, and that is not going to happen. So a minute on the clock, but Bearclaw Esports find themselves with a nice early life lead here in the second round.
It's such a polished opening. All that mid-map pressure completely stifles Path to Pro from getting a free entryway towards A. They have to fight for every single inch, including one from behind. Ooh, Welly almost gets a triple. Noisy will finish it off to make sure the play still finds the success it was built for. And look at this. Bearclaw now forcing the spawns to be over towards rooftop, which means that Path to Pro have to hit the B site, and they need to be dealt with from the back and the front off of these respawns. Just clean pace and tempo from Bearclaw. Unbelievable defense.
I mean, it just feels like they have like a UAV constantly up on the map right now.
Right.
Welly knows exactly. They're just reading the map. And another flank for the back. Noisy's just going from spawn point to spawn point right now. Hello, here is Noisy, but this time Yeez does actually read it. So they do manage to find the kill, but the big problem here is even if they get the zone, they're going to have a minute 30. However, they only have 10 lives in total to try to get that B zone, and they have one tick of progress, but getting through the map right now, Bearclaw Esports, is not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's, if anything, you almost feel like you have to kind of play a little bit more risky and just send somebody on your own through a huge route to try to open up some space and tally a multi-kill somewhere, because trying to coordinate a hit from the front, even trades, is not good news for Path to Pro. You've got to overwhelmingly win a kill feed somewhere, and it's just not happening. Another exchange that favors the side of Bearclaw. 54 seconds, but as you had mentioned, the lives dwindling. Just a handful left. Yeez forward. Noisy once again playing around the back. You see him on the X-ray. He's getting over towards rooftops. First 2 kills are decent. Hold on a second. We have an opportunity for a 4v1 on the B zone. And Yeez actually gets through the initial line of sight from Welly. The kill comes out. Path to Pro still have a chance, and here's their move.
Sparks just found 3. They're stacking the zone. They're not even going to try to wait for this one to go a little longer, but will the streak come in time? It looks like there is a contest on the point, and that should be good for a kill.
Wow,
and
that was close.
That means that Prolute, the only one up. And yeah, that was very close. That ended up coming through. You thought for a second, but they hold on. They use the streak just to be sure, and rightly so. And Bearclaw now going to take a 2-0 lead in the control.
That was like really close to being a third tick of progress that came through. That 3-man stack was really starting to amount towards progress on the final segment. And I thought for a second that if you just stick there, win one gunfight, and just say, take me as you will, Glide Bomb. We'll just see if we can base rush you, kind of to see if we can get this progress before it lands. There was the moment in there where if they would have found that kill through Church, it very well may have amounted for the third tick of progress, but that does not happen here. We've got a 2-0 tally favoring Bearclaw, but this opening rush towards A, completely and utterly destroyed. Path to Pro, 4-man feed, and now a chance to play forward on the map.
Spark, great control. Should be able to find one here. You need a trade to come through for Bearclaw, but Spark's actually going to give it up. Mohawk able to retrace the steps and find the kill. Mochila finds one on the Yeez. This could open up a push over to B. We'll see what Mohawk can find. He's going to find a lot of damage, but no kills, and his teammates actually going to drop at the exact same time. So they're going to have to play a bit of recovery here over by B, but they are still making this hit happen.
Yeah, this is, again, starting to amount. You've got the clock stalled at A. The rest of the plays coming towards B, and Welly's double in a weird spot. Pistol. Oh boy, he's got a heady to play with, and a pistol as well. Mohawk deals with it, but again, this is just essentially a extra bonus condition, right? I mean, the whole play is still focused on if that doesn't work, just go to A, we'll capture it there. But Pat the Pro do not want to give this away freely. They're going to try to contest this. Prelude around the back should have a free kill on the Mochila, and then it's just down to dealing with the final player. But that final player is Noisy, and Spart learns that the hard way. Good pressure here. The Prelude finishing elimination will mean that this third tick of progress is still not done yet for Bearclaw.
30 seconds now on the board. Radio's going to be able to find one, but Yeez with a quick trade and then plays his life. So no trade comes back. He can still play to either site, but you might have A locked up. I think the call should be made here for Pat the Pro to say, listen, let's give over 8. They're going to have an extra minute, but we're tied in the lives, and we can get ourselves all set up at the front of B. And Spark's able to find that first one, so that might slow things down considerably.
Oh, it definitely will. But with even lives and the opportunity to play through Church, Bearclaw could potentially try to put some pressure on the life count in its own self. Radio trying to help clear out Yeez and maps, get quick shots. Yeez, oh, for a second. For 1 second, you thought he made the exact right steps. And it was going to amount to a turn, but not the case. Doesn't make much of a difference. Even exchange is okay for now. The problem is Mochila's in the back, but as you see him stunned, Spart is very aware of this. Just comes down to, can you actually get the elimination? And yes, one last nade from Spart will essentially get the self-trade. And now we go with 40 seconds, 12v11.
Radio, one's coming up the ladder, I think. Will be just be at the bottom, but here we go with the stuns and the nades. Trying to get a lot of information, trying to check. Who's going to make that first move? You got 25 seconds. I mean, Bearclaw Esports, if they're going to go, they're going to have to, but they've lost Noisy. So now a bit of a 3v4, but Welly and Mochila, they do answer back. A chance to get on the zone, and Radio throws himself on it, but Yeez from behind finds 2, and that shuts things down. 10 seconds left. No one is close, and no one should be able to get here in time.
That's just bold from Yeez. He's been playing on top of that staircase or inside maps largely over the course of the majority of this defense. That time he plays near the zone on the bottom side of the stairs, the only place that doesn't get checked right there from Bearclaw. And he's able to turn that into a double. So it's one of what needs to be 3 in a row, though, for Pat the Pro, which means, of course, getting into this next offense, the largest question is, how do you successfully start to find progress towards B? You know, A was salvaged last time around, but it feels like largely this control has been just straight out of just whatever Bearclaw wants to do, Bearclaw does, really. So it'll be interesting to see if Pat the Pro can turn that narrative around and start to find a convincing kill feed to maybe put them in a spot of advantage, whether that be in kills or over towards the B zone.
Noisy ends up dropping. Yeez has just been ducking and diving around the nades and the stuns that have been flooding in through the side of you. But that second tick, almost about ready to come in. It was so close, and Mohawk gets shrugged off. The angle goes for the reach out here and snaps on the head of Mochila. So takes down one, gives him some room to work with. Tries to go for Welly. Welly ducks and dives. Now his teammates here for the reinforcements to ignite the push. Spart finds the last one. A clean retake here for the side of Pat the Pro.
It's exactly what you need. You've got some forward pressure over through the top side of Church. Even though you don't necessarily need to hit this, Bearclaw has to consider that play. So they're going to hard stack through mid-map. And even trades are not just good, but even more so, it allows you a chance to continue to put a little bit of extra pressure step by step towards these defensive spawns. The only player in the back now is Radial, and both have Pat the Pro. Full stack. They get a read on where Radial is, and they do get the elimination. There's nobody get these trades. Look where Pat the Pro have to work with. The entire back spawn is up to them. Bearclaw are all stacked towards front maps on this B zone. I don't love the call, and they very well may be punished for it.
We're going to have to try to retake here, but Radial will play his life around the statue. Radial for 2. Mochila gets the 3rd. A chance to be able to push onto the site, but Noisy completely backtracks, expecting the players to start to get that close spawn. Nice play here coming in. Welly also clears out the last one. And now you get to take a breath, and everybody on the side of Pat the Pro, they're going to take the long way through. See if they can try to get Church control.
What a stun check for Mochila. He knows he's got multiple members in front of him. Good finesse for the first. Did not get a favorable gunfight for the second, but Radial's here to help. One more, sliding through side door. Goodness me, what in the heck did Yeez just do to him? But Mochila, off the respawn, gets a natural pinch, but can't make great use of it. Only tallies 1, and then Radial, same position he was a couple of lives ago. The exact same spot he will fall. And Path to Pro, this is just 1v1s all over the map.
Yep.
And 50 seconds on the map, you've got a 4-life lead. These gunfights are not bad ones at all to take. If you just keep winning 1v1s, you can win this offense, and that's exactly what's happening, Austin.
They get two. Mohawk all the way in the back. Spart also combines for a double kill. Mochila holding his ground, gets help from Noisy, but you have presence on the point right now for Path to Pro. Prolu takes one down, who tries to hit a pinch. Not going to happen. Bearclaw now on the back foot. How are they going to come off their spawn and try to retake here? Because that second ticket's well on the way.
Oh, but Radial around the back. Clears the site, depletes a bit of the progress, and then gets the 1v1 versus Prolute. 5v11, 30 seconds on the clock, and Radial will eventually be bested up top by Patio. Noisy wants to make sure this position stays safe and will do so with the clearance. But now, multiple contestants starting to make their way through Command Center. Stun will slow things down, the nade as well, but here comes the flood through arches. 2 players already on. Noisy needing to deal with it. Moves forward, finds the kill. 2v7. 15 seconds on the clock. 1 set of kills could be fine. 14 seconds. Can anyone actually get here to touch in time? Bearclaw are trying to zone off this next hit, but you've got to be careful with the lives, because even though they may not be able to touch, kills are fine. And you can see Welly's hiding in a corner. First kill comes through. Radial cannot stop the hit. 2.9 on the clock. It's a 1v3 to try to save this for a 3-1. Now back down, able to find the 1v1, but does not win it. And Path to Pro secure the offense, sending us to a 5th round.
Oh, you never know when Welly's alive there. I thought for a second there could have been a chance, but no, not going to happen. Good trade comes through, and I mean, that was a bit of a panic. I did like the fact that they took an alternative route. It's not like everyone just started to rush right through P5 and just gun it to the point. One player goes through Church, a couple players come through P5. They hit a different route so that they can get there in time and they can play for all the information. And now as we switch sides, it's going to be one of those bold calls for Path to Pro where they aggressively try to make something happen on B.
And I'm really curious. Again, we tried to break this down when we saw Moneyform do it. Look where Yeez gets immediately. He's already trying to zone off the spawns. It's up to Mohawk to win these gunfights in the back, though, because Bearclaw are taking the long route back towards the point, and it's Spartan Yeez. 3 in the kill feed. Prolute for the 1v1 to lock down the B zone and the first tick of progress. He wins it, and still holding over toward the defensive spawn is Yeez. This could be another good look at the B zone. Bearclaw have to go the long way around.
2 players are pinching right now from Bearclaw. Is this going to be red right now for Path to Pro? Oh, there's one. Mohawk gets it, and they're able to deal with all 4, and they're spawning deep, and they're going to have to take the Church route. So again, they're going to have to try to pinch through mid again here. We'll see if they're going to be able to get it, but this might be the B zone, and it is.
You have to set up an aggressive zone around the A site here. That's the only option for Bearclaw. You've got to get to these power positions and force Path to Pro to spawn bottom rooftops. Good kill from Welly. That will block that spawn. Watch where Noisy spawns up, or pardon me, where Yee spawns up. It's number 5 and number 6. Bottom left-hand side. That's where they're going to spawn up at. So you've got an opportunity here for Bearclaw to try to zone this off, but there are streaks you have to live through. Good 3 eliminations coming through, and this is going to be just a consolation kill. Not much you can do with it, but Mohawk, who finds a kill through Church, actually is kind of putting some pressure onto Bearclaw spawns all of a sudden. This is a 50-50 battle for the zone.
50-50 battle. Minute 30 here to work with, and Prolute already attacking that first tick of progress. He's just found 2, and that's going to loosen up the defense quite a bit, making this a lot more manageable. Radial, can he find 2? He cannot. Prolute finds the trade, and now you're looking at what could be the last push right now as Prolute, Spart all finding kills.
So as he through, finds a little bit of a finesse, but the pre-fire does not allow him a chance to survive. Second tick of progress confirmed. More streaks being used. Numbers now starting to flood. You've got to get there if you're Radial. You've got to go now. Mochila is able to find one more elimination. Over through U-Haul, though. Yee stays alive, but not for long enough. 7v9. Forget about the clock. It's all about this third tick of progress or the kills, whichever comes first.
Yes, this might come down to the kills right now. Mochila's got to play his life. Coming off the spawn, though, you should have access to a couple more stuns and nades, but Noisy on the pinch. What can he find here? That's the first one. Does he read for a second? He throws the stun out, but he's not able to combine for more than 2. However, Path to Pro still up by 1 life. How are they going to play this right now? Everyone right now, Alan, they're taking routes through the map.
The thing about it was Yeez touched the zone. He was sneaking through mid, but when he touched it, everybody for Bearclaw knew where he was. That's your 4th member that you're able to find. 5v5. It's all down to what you can do on this break attempt. Prolute doesn't want to touch yet. Stun will connect onto Noisy. Nade to follow up, and now he'll make his move forward as Yeez is able to at least trade out the initial kills. 4v4. 30 seconds on the clock, and Path to Pro are still trying to finesse for the kills. They're not able to get out of the zone yet.
Mochila through mid. He found Spart, but Yeez answers back. 24 seconds on that clock. Radial watching over. Welly has taken down Mohawk. It's all up to 2. It's all up to 1. It's Yeez in a 1v3, and Mochila flanks. They recover in the final moments. It was almost the reverse sweep here in the control, but it's not going to happen. Bear Claw, they get the job done in round 5.
I could spend the next 4 hours going back and rewatching each of those rounds. There was so much random stuff, at least by the initial reaction. It felt like random stuff going on, but the little split decisions, the macro game of where do we want to try to hit this? How do we try to stretch the defense around? It almost led to an unbelievable break attempt for Path to Pro, but you called it. It was Noisy who did the exact same thing, slipping around the back kind of late in that moment where it was like 9v9, gets through, gets a read, wipes the floor, only just costing it his life. Huge value. And man, there are so many little moments in there. I'm going to have a field day breaking that one back down because that was probably the most interesting Tusken control we've seen yet through CDL kickoff, through Europe, and even here now through North America. But with that, Bear Claw stay alive to see another map. That's big news.
And I mean, this has been a close affair the entire way through. You go back to the hard point. It was, what, a 12-point differential there for us, 238 to 250. The S&D was maybe the only thing that looked a little bit convincing, and that was just kind of Yeez took over and, you know what I mean, did what he does best in Search and Destroy, but that one was very close. And now you're definitely, if you're Bear Claw Esports, you're like, listen, we can send this all the way to a map 5. Absolutely. That was a huge clutch up. That was just great composure and recovery, going up 2-0, losing a couple rounds and still getting the job done, even after losing the B zone at the start of that round. So, I mean, good recovery overall, a good way to bounce back.
And the thing is, it wasn't just the key gunfights that really kind of stole the show. Think about all of the cool different looks that we got on reattacks and just even off the break. You know, we talked about this in EU with Money Form, that 4-man stack over towards B. What is the game plan? Because we saw CDL teams try to do that during the kickoff, and it was like, we got 4 here. What do we do now? Now we've got a really good look from Path to Pro as far as what that ideal setup looks like to actually start garnering some success on that B zone. You get Yeez in that instance forward towards the Godheady on the defensive spawn stairs. You've got another watching over towards Church, and then when you're spawning up at rooftops, all you have to worry about is the long Church route the defense has to take to avoid going through that heady. And, you know, we look back over this map, you're going to see a couple of moments where it was good power position control from both sides. You know, the early favor for the side of Bear Claw, great. Path to Pro trying to respond and do the exact same thing. And it led to some really awesome key moments that we have not seen yet. So the understanding of control and how to make the offense more successful is definitely unfolding in front of our eyes as we look over the replay package.
Yeah, we take a look at some of these replays that come through here for us, and while everything we're talking up, we get to see a little bit of again. And this was, of course, the incredible first round from Noisy, where he invests that glide bomb, comes through with it, and then ends up playing his life for some more kills in Church. But yeah, a lot of key moments that ended up breaking out here for us. Radial, how many times did he go big around the statue? I mean, he just loves playing around this area, it feels like, as well.
It's just a really good showcase for Radial and what finesse he brings. You know what I mean? Like, there were moments last year where we watched him and it was like, okay, Radial's got some solid potential. Obviously, we watched a lot of him through College COD, and it was like, all right, he's going to be able to run through players at this, no problem. But seeing him do it versus the Cold War champs and find immense value out of being able to play his life and go from gunfight to gunfight, that's what you look for in potential for a major SMG presence. So
definitely,
yeah, I think you definitely saw something there for Radial. It says, you know, this team isn't just fluky, they're freaking good.
They're freaking good, man. They're looking good out there. They're getting a lot done without a doubt. But we take a look at the series layout here for you guys to see what we have coming up next. You can see it the whole way through. This has been such a tight series, and you have to imagine it's only going to continue on that trend as we get ready for a Tusken hardpoint. So we get to go right back on the map that we've been talking about so much of course, in Control now will be the hard point, where a lot of the same things we're looking out for are likely going to be taking place coming into this one. And Path to Pro, you know, they need to have the big bounce back. We know, sure, they're a strong search and destroy team. You know, they would be able to, sure, get the job done if it would likely go to a Berlin, but they want to make sure that they get the job done here in map 4, because Bear Claw Esports, we talk about it, especially Mochilla. When Mochilla starts to get fired up, Alan, that's where I get a little scared. I'm like, okay, we need a 5-minute break here. Let Mochilla cool down a little bit before we go into the next map.
There's no such thing as Mochilla calm down. He'll fire up a game of Osu and just start going ham on it. You already know.
You're not wrong.
It's the way Steve works. But here's the thing, man. We go back to what we said at the top of this match series layout. Bear Claw came out fiery against Texas Nation and throughout their qualifiers. We need to see them play with that same speed and that same tempo here against Path to Pro. And they've done that. In every single one of the respawns, and even through the search and destroy, it was the same case. Start this Tuscan off hot, and that will be now 4 maps in a row, essentially, where Path to Pro have had to adjust to you, which is surprising to say, considering the caliber of opponents that are on the other side. And let's be honest, a lot of the reason why that NYSL Academy roster throughout the beginning of Cold War, and then again, this Path to Pro roster at the end of the year, was them being able to play their speed and their tempo from start to finish. So Bear Claw, as much as I would still consider them to be an underdog here, you've done well to dictate the tempo of this series. Do it again, and I think you've got a chance to look at that Berlin map 5.
Yeah, it's possible, and you know, something we laid out coming into, you know, so to speak, the key to victories was, you know, stay away from some of those larger maps. Well, they've already gotten Gavutsu out of the picture. Right now they're on the Tuscans, where they can utilize the radial, they can utilize the noisy the same way they did in the very last map mode combination here. So I think things are looking pretty good here for them. But that same note, Path to Pro, we know that they're able to adjust. They're really good at being able to put themselves in situations where they realize halfway through what's going wrong. This is what we need to do in the second rotation. So you have to make sure, if you're Bear Claw, you're also kind of adapting on the fly here, and being able to play for some of the more important hills, where we know Mochilla is going to be constantly calling for that, constantly playing for that with that automaton. And we'll see if Welly can continue to keep things going, because he's also been one of the big standouts here as well, where you have Noisy and Radial, who have been solid with the submachine gun, but Welly's been doing it with that AR, running that second automaton or running that third SMG as need be, as one of the key flexes on the roster. So we'll see how that matches up coming in towards this matchup here, where there's just going to be so much submachine gun power. I think that's one of my favorite things about this matchup so far. We even saw it on the Gavutsu. There is just such a crazy front line that we have here for us going up against one another.
Yeah, like the head-to-head matches, like who's guarding who, it's just been really fun to watch. Like Mochilla versus Mohawk, Spart versus Welly, and then Yeez and Prolute versus Noisy and Radial. I mean, come on, SMGs on SMGs. But, man, I'm curious to see what the weapon meta is going to look like here. Who's going to run what? Is it going to be a 2-2? Are we going to get 3 SMGs, 1 AR? Obviously, you expect for this opening hardpoint, you're going to get at least 2 ARs in the mix. Welly makes good, finds Prolute, Mochilla another, but it's the counter nades that keep things relatively contested. But goodness me. Last player of Yeez, no chance. Great nades coming through for Bear Claw. They win the opening break off, and with that, some significant time here in the first.
Time's looking good. Radial just going to wait patiently. His ARs are doing the job, though. Mochilla does lose the battle through mid. Tolu found that second. Almost gets some shots onto Welly there. He's got 9 HP, so almost found an incredible 3-piece to be able to maybe savor some of this P1 time. But you are able to move in for it now, as it looks like the rest of Bear Claw Esports have simply started to set up and cut across the map to see if they can get themselves in a position for P2.
Yeah, good awareness here from Radial to know that he's got an avenue to push through. Makes use of it for a double. Spart looking to correct some of this missed rotation timings. And again, the tempo and timing here for Bear Claw puts him in a bit of an advantage. 1-for-1 goes the trade. But with that, Bear Claw can contest from the front as the column hardpoint opens up. Yeez down low. Stunned. Concussed. Dealt with, no problem. Now pressure from the high ground. Spart just holding onto a corner. Saved by Mohawk. But then, eventually, Bear Claw numbers to come back through. We stay 50-50, but Spart's the last player left alive. Waits for the regen. And with help from Yeez, finally, Path to Pro into the hard point, but being threatened on their spawns behind.
Yeah, great teamwork, but this pinch from behind needs to be dealt with. Spart for 4. Oh, he almost turned for 5. Radial gets the shots down just in the nick of time. 20 seconds up for grabs. Path to Pro should have that unlocked thanks to Yeez. But you can see everyone ends up dropping here across the map. Make sure that no rotations come through successfully, and Mochila thinks even I'm going to put some additional pressure on, force some spawns a little deeper so that you don't have the fast track on the rotation.
You hit it 100% correctly with Bearclaw winning 2 kills on rotation. Yeah, you're clean. You've got all 4 up. Send a couple members to try to contest the scrap time, and as mentioned, keep them as far away as possible from this third hill. But Spart slips around, stun comes through. He single-handedly breaks the hard point, but the one player he could not account for was Welly in the back, who's now left with really just up a creek without a paddle. But Prolute, a little bit of trouble trying to track him down. Welly he's a ghost on the map. He finds an elimination, now turning over towards Useless. No kill there, but with that, Bearclaw, time to come and contest from the front.
How long can you stay alive here? Well, not long when Prolute comes through for 3. Yeez gets the 4th. And Welly, the next one up off the spawn here for Bearclaw, isn't really able to do a whole lot. Doesn't have his teammates with him. They have all decided to rotate. So Path to Pro able to recover despite not having the early setup. They get the break, they get the scrap time. They're going to have a slight lead. And Spart already working in the back.
Spart has to be very careful here, though. There's no help anywhere nearby. As he gets shot at, he tries to change the angle, but Bearclaw not going to be bamboozled this time around. Deal with it. Open up Church with a really solid setup. Should be the good first 20 seconds or so. Pressure starting to amount, though, as the setup for Path to Pro looks to break just from the front doors. But that all said, look at the kill feed. Essentially a kill per Bearclaw member. That allows a chance for a 4-man beat, and now Radial can go to work, trying to get aggressive. Gets a good read on where the hit's coming from. Noisy tries to put together an impressive double, turned aside, but the trades are still good, and Bearclaw have locked up the first 30 seconds without a problem.
Yeah, just such a good heads-up call there to push out the front once you find 4 down, so taking away more of the map, force these engagements a little bit sooner before they get inside of the hard point. And now Path to Pro, well, they have to start to get in for the next 15 seconds. They have dedicated a team hit for it, and it looks like they might be able to. Spart actually cleans up the remaining 2, so they do manage to secure the remaining 10 seconds of the Churchill, but this means that they're also going to be a little bit late on the rotation to new, but maybe that's fine because Prolute and Yeez, they're all winning their engagements.
Really good stuff here from Path to Pro on this rotation. You want to be in a position to know where are we spawning, where can we potentially get a little bit further forward, and make sure this doesn't just turn into a death trap of nades. We're seeing a little bit of that right now. The SMGs coming to life, clearing out mid, clearing out bottom. You have to know that the really only play available is from the front. Spart on 4, gets the reload off for the 5th. And look at the kill feed. It's 1 nade from Mochila. Bearclaw have found nothing on this hard point, and Path to Pro now really starting to grow their lead.
And they're reading the spawns here for new.
Yes, they are.
That's beautifully done. Here, Spart ends up getting all the streaks, challenges the second, and sets it up for easy cleanup here for Prolute, who's just waiting in between that door, firing away. Even challenges Welly right after. Prolute having a strong start to this hard point. It's Mohawk's nade that inevitably takes him down, as he's 17 in 12, 37 seconds in that point, and now lots of streaks going to be in play as Path to Pro going to be up by quite a bit, moving back into the rotation here at P1.
And it's a 1v1 for the initial time. Spart aware the gunfight turns for it, but tracking him down was Noisy. Good elimination, but Mohawk around the back will actually give some favorable spawns here for Path to Pro as they look to break. He's has made a mess of mid-map, just kind of playing his life over in towards Church. Glide Bomb comes down, convincing kill feed to follow. Mochila trying to keep the numbers as limited as possible, and he does well for a triple. Welly cleaning up the final one as he cuts mid-map. Now a chance for Welly to put a little bit of pressure into the spawns as well. Path to Pro not expecting it. Welly will collect the double. Radial on the opposite side dealt with, but hey, not bad here for Bearclaw. They create some space, and with that, they gain some time.
Really impressive with the way that Bearclaw are able to just pour on the pressure at times, even when they're behind here and their streak's being called in. I mean, that streak is called in just so that they can push out of their spawn and they can get back out onto the map, just showing you how much pressure we're currently seeing. Welly just found 3 in a row. Spart now going to be left all alone at the back, and he's got 3 members on his tail. He's trying to finesse the best he can, but he's only going to be able to buy so much time. And maybe it's good if these gunfights do come through, because guess who's here? We have Yeez, we have Prolute, and they've been able to influence the spawns in the back.
Prolute's on one. I mean, he just absolutely destroys Radial off the Godhead. I mean, there's a pixel he can shoot at, and he doesn't miss the head once. Spart up top of patio, looking and hoping for help, and it does start to amount from the favorable spawn. So with that, now a bit of a natural zone around this column hardpoint. Prolute's in a very good position to continue to work around this backside barrier. And even while stunned, it does not make a difference. ProLoot just hitting a little bit different right now. 172-126. The call for Pat the Pro is let's hit a rotation and look at the little baton pass of who's going to get into the hard point. Really good push forward, and BearClaw, who needs to respond, very fortunately, start to put together a solid hold of their own.
And they need a solid hold on P3. Last time Pat the Pro, they broke it on about the second attempt. This time Mochilla gets it with one. He goes for the challenge on the second. Coach Mo feeling himself in that engagement. And that's going to slow things down a tad bit. Pat the Pro, they're going to have to wait for a second, but now they're here as a collective 4. Let's see how they set up the break.
And they know it's coming from Vines. They absolutely know it's coming from the top side of the map. Radial will confirm that as he was trying to lurk through mid-map. Strafing run, not productive. Numbers now from the rooftop reinforcements leads to a 1v1 through the archway. Mochilla trying to pick it up. Last player through, and goodness, Moch. Unbelievable double for him. Keeps the hard point still favorable for BearClaw, and a decision now to be made for Pat the Pro. Do you hit this? Do you rotate? The decision now being made for you as Mochilla gets a quad. And with that, it's actually BearClaw who also win gunfights on rotation to get to church first.
It is about 15 seconds, though, that they did not end up securing. A lot of that just goes to the game clock here. But overall, Pat the Pro, they're not worried about it whatsoever. They already got some players in, but Radial and Welly dealing with 2 of them. Welly's got one more top church. Won't be able to find Mohawk there, but Noisy will get his teammates trade. So down by about 30 seconds or so. Mochilla going to be able to push out the front. 27 kills for him. Radial reads the push on the side for 1, and you're in a good spot to be able to bring this one back here on this Churchill.
That's such a good shell from Mochilla to put up the front after the stun came through. The nade didn't. He knows, okay, he's got to be holding left. Let me go ahead and shell this. The problem is you still need to deal with Yeez, who has found a way to keep this contest alive. Yeez on 2. Welly feeling like he's forced to challenge, and rightfully so. He comes in to help his teammates. One more player around the back is Spart, and it's actually a team kill for Mochilla that a bit surprising, a bit puzzling, and that's going to be enough for Pat the Pro to actually amount some numbers and then re-break in for the scrap time about 16 seconds. This puts them that much closer to 250 as they break past the double century mark.
Last couple hills, they've been picking up a lot of this free scrap time that's been getting them closer and closer to that 250 mark. BearClaw Esports in a position where they can't let time go over for free anymore. And now Noisy down low, setting up the stuns up top. Spart doesn't know where to watch. Noisy's going to be able to come in there and clear out the point. Radial flies from the top, and now you have full control if you're BearClaw Esports.
This is a really good look for BearClaw. Wait, how does ProLoot win that gunfight? So the nade was being cooked up for what felt like an eternity, I'm sure. But the setup here for BearClaw could potentially allow them a chance to bring this back to level margins. The problem is you've got Yeez hitting a bit of a pinch, and it's kind of a tactical retreat here for Radial, and they actually turn this into a double. What a smart little backup from Welly and Radial. 1v1, trying to find the player on the outside, but Mohawk with the pistol will find a double? Are you kidding me? That was a full HP Mochilla that he deals with the rat. Now Noisy trying to finesse his life and contest as much time as possible, but Noisy needs to back away, wait for a reload, and hopefully wait for some help.
Oh, a lot of nades, a lot of stuns. They're just going both ways. Welly looks like he has been able to get himself on the point, but while you fought for this scrap time, as you needed to, because this game is so close to 250 for the side of Pat the Pro, the rotation has been won, and they only need another 15 seconds. Radial has to find value here.
Oh, but the problem is they're trying to hit from multiple angles, and they don't find success on any front. Welly for 1, but it's a 4-man feed. That'll put Pat the Pro over the 240 mark. And look at the pinch coming out from number 8 in blue. That's Yeezer on the back. He's made a mess of it. 6 seconds. Now just down to the last couple. And Pat the Pro will not be challenged here on P1. They'll put this away in 4. But goodness, did BearClaw make a show of it.
They sure did. I mean, this was such an entertaining series to watch. A lot of back and forths. I mean, BearClaw had themselves a lead. It looked like there was a couple times over by P3 where they were really going to be able to start to bring it back or, you know, enforce the lead that they had on the first rotation. But that, to me, I think was the pivotal hill, Alan, where we look back on a couple times where BearClaw were always set up at that P3 hill first, but they were never able to hold on to it for too long, or at the very least, Pat the Pro kept them off of the hill, so they were never really gaining any of that time or any of those points. So just really good heads-up play, I feel like, across the board there, and that was really one of the standout hills for me, where that could have made or break the game if they were able to hold, you know, a good 40 points at that money hill that we always talk about.
Absolutely the case. I think your assessment is spot on. I do want to also just throw an extra spotlight onto Yeez. I'll be honest, this guy's been in my DMs like, dude, talk about me a little bit more. I was like, bro, make me. And boy, did he make me this one.
Major.
Because he was hitting just really good timings on a lot of these pinches and these flanks that you look for out of an SMG in a map like Tuscan. It's all about trying to manipulate some of that space when there may not be any. And how many times did Yeez find one or two on a rotation by getting into a sneaky position around the play? Not in the play, but around the play. That's key when you're looking at somebody who can deter an entire setup, especially when it comes to the respawn, hardpoint or control, whatever it happens to be. And on the back-to-back maps that we got on map number 3 of Tuscan and map number 4 of Tuscan, Yeez provided in both of those instances. So, brother, I got you, all right? Show me what you got. I'll talk about it.
You talk about him a lot in the S&Ds too, right? 13 kills that came through. It was beautifully done across the board. Path to Pro really looking, on form, and I feel like a lot of what ended up happening through the qualifier, they're like, listen, it was a little shaky. That was like nowhere close to what our practice was looking like leading up to it, and they felt like it was a rough day. And here they get to prove it because they clutched up multiple times through all of the maps, as you can see it here one more time through our series layout.
I really wish we would have gotten a chance to see Bear Claw in Berlin, though.
Would have been a fun story, right? Reverse
it really would have been.
Map 5.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking from the reverse sweep side of things. It's just, you go back to that Desert Siege, and if you take away the fact that Yeez 1v2'd 3 different times and found 3 kills in 2 different rounds, that could have been, it was a 3-3 start to that map. It could have been a 4-1 favoring Bear Claw if Yeez doesn't pop off. So I would have been really curious to see how Berlin would have played out. But we'll have to wait to wet our whistle with more Bear Claw Search and Destroy at a later point. But for Path to Pro, again, if you're joining us here late, that's the first stretch throughout this round robin table. Everybody will play each other once in not just today, but tomorrow, and then also the second week. And then depending on how the table shakes out from there, bottom 2 teams relegated, top 2 teams instantly invited to the playoffs, and then a knockout bracket for the other 4. So a good start for Path to Pro. You look at that one on the schedule and you say, we have to win this one. We should win this one. It wasn't as comfortable as they would have liked, but a win is a win, no matter how it looks on the scorecard.
That's right. Win's a win. I mean, I still feel like right now, just based off of what I saw in the qualifier, Control is looking like one of their shakier modes. Sure. Now, they almost did bring it back, right? Like, it went all the way to round 5, and it was a 4v4 in the very last round to really end that one off. But it did feel like there were a couple mistakes, at least in the first couple rounds, that were something that was definitely relevant still through the qualifier as well when I was watching over their gameplay. So that's probably where I imagine they're going to do a lot of their focus, a lot of their team building coming in towards the future weeks, as well as tonight, because to be fair, they still have one more series that they have to play. But I feel like within Respawn, they have just a really good dynamic with the way that Yeez has been playing, with the way that Prolute has always just thrown himself on the hill and has played this, objective role, and has been just so good at being able to play that role without taking a lot of the spotlight. And of course, that's where Spart and that's where Mohawk, I feel like, tend to shine, because they're finding a lot of the kills as the AR players. But yeah, Path to Pro looking like just as good as they were last year, Alan. It's just of staying consistent is all.
Also want to just kind of report as there's other matches that are going on right now. Interesting matchup, UIU and Villains. Villains came out and upset this Path to Pro team during qualifiers, and I think a lot of people were like, okay, let's see what these guys have to offer. They got smoked by UIU. 3-0. 250-137 a Tuscan Hardpoint, 6-3 Search on Berlin, and then a 3-0 on Gavudu. I don't know about you, Austin, but I look over at our spreadsheet, seeing the results, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprising one. I mean, UIU, I feel like is also really good. I feel like that's another really good S&D team that we have in the mix, as well as just a well-rounded squad in whole. But I feel like that's a little surprising. Villains were definitely some of what we were talking about, like Zap's coming back looking for revenge. They have a massive matchup against Team Raw here, which I believe is going to be one of our next series that we do end up jumping into. So I mean, they have to really kind of recover and hit the big regain button here going into their second series, because I feel like that is surprising that they did not get a single map. Yeah,
it tremendously so is. And so left with us is just match 4 here on the schedule. And I'll say this much, kind of looking over at the second stream, Team Raw is now in a position, they're up 5-0 in a map 5 versus Texas Nation. So you talk about the 0-3 loss for Villains and the potential map 5 clutch up versus the number 1 seed going into the qualifiers here from Team Raw. That's a dangerous prospect, I think, to be sure, because for Villains, coming out of this opening pool versus the teams that you're playing 0-2 puts you in a terrible spot for the pool results. So I don't want to call it too soon, but Villains got to come out and show us some major improvements if they want to try to get out of this first day 1-1.
They do, and man, we were talking about this roster last night where it feels like, we've been talking a lot about, Fire, Hamza, Zaptius, right? Like, these are all real big staples from challengers last year or even the year before. And then we have kind of Jinshroid thrown into the mix where we had some big question marks about him. So, it could be a struggle of these guys really finding enough trust, in one another, really having enough practice as well, is one of the big things here. But I definitely, had higher expectations for as far as the squad. I mean, Fire was, on Paris at the beginning of the year. He had a lot of hot and cold maps and a lot of hot and cold series. Hamza feels like he hasn't been talked about enough, and he had a lot of, different things intertwining with that NYSL Academy roster from the first couple of stages as well, where he's like, man, I just want to be able to get on a team and be able to play and grind things out and learn the game together here. So we'll see if they can try to, recover. I do feel like these guys are smart enough about the game where they can figure things out fairly quickly, but to be fair, they're also going up against the likes of what was, Wester essentially from last year, where these guys are very talented. So it's not like the road gets any easier here, Alan.
And I can report to you officially, Team Raw 6-0 in the map 5 to take a 3-2 win versus Texas Nation.
Fancy.
So, wow, that's going to provide for a very interesting setup for us, because I think we were expecting maybe a more even affair. Hard to say, again, sample size is 1, anything can happen, but we're going to step away for a break and get ready to go for Team Raw and Villains, our second slot here in North America, when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Small delay as we switch things over and get ready things to go for our second round robin slot here in the North American region. My whole chip with me, I've got my man Visions, and well, we were treated to a really tight affair through 4 maps in our opening series. We're hoping for the same here, but you look at Raw and Villains in our next scheduled matchup. 3-0 on one side, and then a map 5 reverse sweep is actually what came through on the other. So we'll see how these two teams match up.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was looking at. I was like, oh wow, they actually reverse swept and ended up closing out. I think it was the last map you said it was 6-0. So that's it's one heck of a way to bounce back from a series you were 0-2 down in. And then you have the other side of the story where Villains, well, they didn't really get anything going in their last series. So hopefully they've been able to reflect a bit, take a little bit of a step back, take a break, get into this one, because we know this is going to be a big grudge match with Zaptius playing this old team.
That much is for sure. Nice little teaser as we take a look over our 5-map series layout. Got Gavudu coming up for not just the first map, but also the third. Berlin will be our first search and destroy for our consideration. And then if we go deep, we'll start to see some of our more regularly played maps so far on the day. Tuscan and Bacage there for 4 and 5. Any initial reactions here to these first 3 maps in any form here, Austin?
Well, I will say I'm pretty excited to see the whole like Gravity Paul X, up against Fire and Hamza when it comes to the ARs. I'm sure we'll probably get a third AR there in the mix, but from as far as an actual position standpoint, I'm excited to see how that one is going to play with the roles, especially with Gavutu, Berlin, another Gavutu. There's a lot of long-range maps coming into the mix here, so the ARs are certainly what I have my focus on.
As a part of that reverse sweep, Team Raw did play this map in map number 1, lost it 195 to 250 to Texas Nation in their opening series, so that's just something there for the consideration. Villains, they didn't get anything going on the respawn at all, so yeah, as you mentioned, you got to show us something here if you're Villains. And so far, hey, it could just easy contest. The ARs actually kind of find themselves in close quarters positions. And Glowfrosty, going back to Glowfrosty, by the way, not Hamza.
Oh,
bit of
yeah.
a name swap. Interesting to see. He will not be able to find too much, as Fire will make some room happen here on the first hill for Villains.
Yeah, I did just realize that too. All right, we're going back to the Modern Warfare days. But here we go with Zaptius. Again, one of the players that was on that Western Dynasty at the beginning of Cold War here. Alongside Gravity, Paul X, and Venom will certainly be hitting on that throughout. But how about Jimbo? The first time he's not playing with Civ, already off to a nice start. Oh, Jimbo's just ripping the team apart. Goes on a nice little 4 spree there, and will be able to give his teammates a lot of time as Paul starts to clean up the rest.
You know, it's tough because I had a moment where I was talking with both Paul and Tom about this roster as Paul just destroys everything in front of him. Hold that point. Let's just enjoy Paul's gameplay for a moment. 4 spree. Able to lock down not just the high ground, nor just the hill, but it allows the rest of his teammates to start pushing forward, and they are finding straight decimation.
Can't move.
Villains can't do anything besides spawn die. Spawn die and spawn die. Oh my goodness.
I'm pretty sure that was like 11 consecutive kills that just came in there before finally we saw an answer back here from the Villains. So yeah, that is rough to say the least. And now there's streaks in play here. Paul's been able to earn himself the glide bomb. He's just going to be about 1 off of earning the strafing run here as well. And while that happens, you already have Venom, you have Jimbo pushing out, trying to get control around the new hill. Paul X just going to play his life somehow, but finally will go down. So at least does not earn that second streak here. Villains a chance to be able to respond as they have control on the hill.
So before I was so rudely interrupted by Paul's spree, I was about to say when they told me that they were picking up Jimbo. A bunch of inconsiderate fools. But when they told me they were picking up Jimbo, I was like, look, this guy had so much in front of him. You know, you talk about that old Atlanta FaZe Academy roster. You know, like you mentioned, played with not just Sid, but also Spart. Jimbo was unbelievable. And he's continuing to maybe show why as he nearly gets out of the lineup here with the Automaton in close range. It's an 11-5 start. You know, hey, we did the Next Threat showcase at the beginning of the year. Jimbo dropped 50 plus on the Bacage hardpoint with the sub, but to see him do this already with the Automaton just goes to show that this guy's something special for sure.
It truly is. And now you have all this scrap time going over. Jimbo, as you mentioned, 37 seconds, 11-6. Paul, 8-4 with 50 seconds. So this team getting very involved with the objective while also putting up the numbers. But Zaptius doing a little fighting as well. Finds himself on a 3 spree. Almost picks up that 4th, but Jintroid will lucky enough to get the trade. But now your hero has about 3 players, now 4, as the close spawn is in. And we'll see if Team Rock can start to coordinate their push into the back and break the hill.
Yeah, good pickup here from Glowfrosty, realizing he needs to make sure that there is some presence through the jungle pathway. He's actually going to push a little bit further past this, but he doesn't have a lot of help, and Venom will find now his second straight elimination. Nades on the way in will clear off these Villains players from the hill itself. Fire trying to create space. It's a team stun that deals with Venom, and that double from Glowfrosty will essentially amount to nothing else, you feel like, for the side of Team Raw. They'll back away, put themselves in a position to lock down mid-map, and hopefully open up this 5th hard point with really no more contest.
Fire here on the rotation. Finds himself a little bit of help. Good team shots. We'll be able to take down Jimbo. Boat control, we know, so important, and now we know he's got at least one behind him. As he waits for that line of sight to open back up here again, and there he goes. So we'll be able to take down Gravity. One of the ARs now out of the mix, but as soon as you deal with one, Venom realizes, all right, you're dealing with a player behind you. I'm going to start to push in front of you and just really be annoying around this boat area. And on top of that, you still got Jimbo who's posted up inside of the point. So Team Raw, pretty good so far in the first 25 seconds, as Villains have not found an avenue in.
Really nothing to work with whatsoever here for Villains, honestly. I mean, you've got a little bit of boat pressure here, but you just don't have the numbers to do anything with it besides just hold. Gravity will even go forward and challenge. Sees the jump across, but Zaptius does find elimination. Problem is, there's 18 seconds. You can't afford to hit this scrap time, so it's going to be Team Raw with a huge lead through the first rotation of hills. The only bit of good news right now, and maybe a brief silver lining, is the fact that Villains have won the initial gunfight in rotation to get up to P1. The big thing is, you've got to set up a solid hold. You need to see a significant amount of time coming through for Villains right here, right now. And
you can get a solid hold on P1. But it comes down to your ARs, and so far so good. Fire finds a couple of heads, takes down Gravity and Paul. Venom drops as well, and Jintroid ends up finding a second. So the two combined find all 4 players of Team Raw, but now they're positioned in the middle of the map, here to make that hit. Glowfrosty on a nasty heady, gonna be tough to rip him off of it, but Paul gets the job done onto 1 and then 2. Zaptius, however, with the quick response, and well, that's 30 seconds over to Villains, slowly bringing this one back.
And not only are they slowly bringing it back, they're slowing down Team Raw as well. I mean, a lot of these kind of gutsy engagements from Team Raw have allowed for at least trades, if not 1v multiple situations that have turned out favorably for break attempts. Nothing at all through this first hard point in that form for Team Raw. One more chance to try to fight for scrap time, denied. Zaptius solo play at New, able to get one before Gravity meets him with the right hand. But still, hey, that's exactly what the doctor ordered for Villains. It's been a really slow first rotation for you, but for your ability to lock things down with the power position, now you're right back in this game. The big question is, can you actually find a way to break this upcoming setup for Team Raw? Because they're all over the boat, and they've got Gravity with a couple of the weapons to try to hold over towards this Doc's house.
And to be fair, both teams have had a tough time breaking setups so far, so whoever gets set up first is usually bringing home the majority of the time, but maybe that changes with the couple of entries they found near the top. Paul, however, still needs to be dealt with, and there will be a couple of trades back and forth. Pinstripe kill feed across the board, but Jimbo changes that up with a nice jump shot onto Zaptius, finding the second. And if Team Raw get all of this time, this is going to put them pretty darn close to that 200-point mark.
It's just, watch how quickly Jimbo is like, all right, this is safe, let me go find something else. All right, shots there, I know where they're at, let me go find something else. It's just, he's always changing perspective. Make a call and move. Set up your teammates for success. Paul trying to finesse off the reload. Stun comes through, maybe to delay, but not enough to get the 1v1. So now Gravity, long range shots with Jintroid. That'll be good for not just the kill. That locks down the spawns, and with it also the hard point. Once again, another situation for Villains where you need to see a break, which is something we have not had, at least as of yet. Streaks will come through, and it's just a 1-for-1 off of that one streak. Not enough for Villains to move forward off.
It was actually a small moment there from Jimbo. He pushed out from the right side of the tank so that his teammate, or rather for the opponent that ended up dying to the streak, was also in range of the glide bomb explosion. So a nice play there to make sure that no real control comes through for Villains. And now that the close spawn has just been so easy to utilize, you have been able to get some numbers in. But Zaptius, battling up top with Glowfrosty, have been able to keep the majority of Team Raw off of this time, despite controlling spawns the entire time. But 15 seconds might be up for grabs. Fire's already cutting up the rotation, and now it's one of those moments where we talk about perfect hard point. Well, you need a perfect full 60 here to make sure that Team Raw are going to be on the back foot and are still going to be at least a little bit pressured going into the future hills.
This is the craziest thing about Gavudu. There has been one hard point that Villains have found any success on. It was P1 in the second rotation. If they lock down radar, though, they're right back in this game, dude. It's just, this map is all about full 60 holds as you get to 3, 4, and 5. And how about this? The first attempt for Team Raw comes from the beachfront. Jintroid's in a close quarters position, top radar. He can't do anything besides sit inside this house and respond maybe to where these spawns are coming from. It's already a flip from Team Raw. Kills start to come through. One more player to deal with inside of the hill. And as Gravity watches one side, as SMGs move forward to try to clear the other, that's just too easy. Villains will have a chance to try to respond from the front, but the pressure for Team Raw is going to allow for some time to contest, at worst.
Well, Villains do get a huge part of it, as long as they can keep maybe one member alive here. It is just 10 seconds that goes over, but it is a big 10 seconds considering that they're going to be now just about 233 or so. It was a solid attempt by Villains, but that's kind of what happens when you stack the majority of your numbers on the point itself. You can't really watch all of the lanes and you lose control of the spawn. So 232 to 160. Villains again will be able to get the fast track to new. This is where we saw Team Raw lock down a huge amount of their points. We'll see if that is now going to be in favor of the Villains.
Paul on the flank. Shout out to our ops team. Aldo and J-Pro's killing it. Does not actually influence the spawns, though, as Paul tries to make a play forward to influence the hard point itself. So we've got the same status of which we opened this hill. And Villains can claw back into this game. They've got a really good surround over this ship. Problem is they've only have one player on the hard point. And now that Zaptius comes off spawn, he's got to take a mad dash to sprint forward. And as he moves forward, he does track down Gravity, who was trying to sneak into position on top of the boxes to deny maybe one more hit for Villains to get on. So with 13 seconds to play, we've got ourselves a 232 to just around 205 game. At least that's what's in front of us. But it's all about can Fire and the rest of Villains find a way to break. And Fire actually does catch Venom close. That's not bad for a trade, plus the nade lands. We've got a 2v1 favoring Villains as they try to open up this first hard point again.
They need a convincing break, and they need it now. Getting closer to 250, but that's going to be a pretty convincing feat here for Team Raw. And now Fire, furthest one pushed up, is going to have to fly. Jimbo's cutting them down off spawn, and that is going to be another full feed of blue. And Team Raw should have this one locked up, and they will. So it does get a little closer in the end with a couple of full 60s kind of going back and forth, but Team Raw, they get the job done on a fast track rotation at P1.
I'm trying to find the words here to, like, pick out the moments that were like the big difference makers. It's just, you know, I think you had touched it at this one point through the first set of hills, maybe into the second, where it's like Villains just have not been able to break setups.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think a lot of the difference in this game is largely off the fact that this is going to sound so basic and simple. Villains set up through the first rotations were not held. You know, it's that one or two breaks that Team Raw had through 3 through 4 where Villains rotated first. You have to hold those because, like you mentioned, this map, a large majority of it does feel like you're kind of handshaking 45 seconds plus, if not 60s, between 3, 4, and 5, just because of how difficult it is to get through the middle of the map and then turn spawns around to actually then get a 50-50 battle over the hard point itself. There's so many things you have to do right. The problem was in that first set of hills, Villains weren't able to hold anything, and their break attempts were largely thrown aside before they even got the legs to get to the hard point itself. It was just a little bit too convincing of a first set of rotations. I was hoping to maybe find more than that, but I don't know. We looked through the replays, able to kind of give us some more instances, but largely this whole game was dictated by what happened in that first set of hills for me.
Yeah, I think I agree with you overall. I mean, you can see it here where it's about 80 to 21. All that scrap time's going over. And then I want to say that Team Raw were able to break into the back of that hill as well. So it's a little bit tough. And I think a huge part of it was also kind of some of the streaks that we saw Paul X go on at the start, right? Where it started to snowball quite a bit, brought some streaks into play. I think there was at least a glide or two earned throughout the early portions of that map, and that allows you, of course, to be able to break things a little bit easier on some of those P3 hills, or at the very least be able to get them off of the time. So yeah, it's gonna expected for Team Raw, right? A map like Gavutu. I'm looking at Tom Gravity, you know, and I'm like, oh man, I'm looking at Paul X. It's not gonna be easy gunfights to battle these guys out of the power positions on the map on Gavutu.
And then how about Jimbo? You know, I just...
Yeah, he was electric too.
We talk a lot about the flexibility needed to be a superstar in a game like this. Jimbo has already proven that his SMG gameplay is unbelievable, but for him to work an automaton from start to finish on Gavutu and find that much success, great news, I would say, for the future potentially for Jimbo. But with that in mind, again, this is still round robin play. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We've got map 2 still coming up. It's Berlin for the Search and Destroy. And kind of looking over, this was another map that Villains had played in their first series versus UYU. It was a 3-6 tally, losing to UYU in that particular map. And then for Team Raw, they also played this map. It was a map 2 for them versus Texas Nation. They lost this one as well, 3-6. So looking to try to learn from that experience, and instead of starting 0-2 on the same 2 maps that they had in that series, potentially start off 2 here in this one.
2-0 in this one. That would be a much better start, and I'm sure even Team Raw as a whole right now would feel a lot better about it and have probably talked over a lot of their mistakes, because that was something I think we were really keen on last year, is whenever they were making some of the key fundamental mistakes in series or in maps, it felt like this was a team that was always really good at being able to fix those quite quickly. And against a team like Villains that haven't necessarily had a great start to the day, that very well could take place here for us. But I mean, you are looking at some of these guys, like Zap, like Jintroid, who have been able to make big S&D plays in the past. Bring them out here today against Team Raw. See if you can tie the series up, at least grab a map on the day so that you can kind of build off of that here in the best of 5. That's really where it starts here for me.
I agree. I think it's a very fair assessment. Little teaser for what the map looks like in case you forgot. But,
yeah,
here's the thing. When we look at what the old Wester roster was, which is the core piece of what Team Raw's been able to put together here, a lot of their success came on Control, right? Like that was where they really stepped ahead of everybody else in the North American region early. After that run, then you started to see pieces of that Western roster get picked up to the Pro League, and they didn't find the same success. How much do you attribute that to the synergy needed to be successful in 4v4? And then potentially just on top of that, what does that mean looking forward, not just to Berlin, but also potentially Gavudu, a map that is very difficult to win an offense on?
Yeah, I contribute a lot of it. A lot of the success that they found, was because of their chemistry and their synergy. I think you also have to give, a really fair shout out to Phoenix as well, who's now coaching the Seattle Surge, who helped build a lot of, where they wanted to go and the direction and just their play style. Because it did feel like they were just, so far ahead. And it wasn't just like the overall macro and the way that they were structuring and breaking down the maps. It was also the way that they worked off one another, right? Yep. So I would really like to know, what would have happened, in a world where we could have just put 4 of those guys into a team and see exactly what would have taken place, because it did really feel like at the beginning of the year, they were taking, big control maps off of like the pro teams that we were having with some of the early. On the other side, as we're jumping in, and it looks like Team Raw will already be up by a round.
Indeed. Paul and Venom finding those first 4 kills. So we got Villain's turn for the offense. Pretty aggressive setup here over towards B. Good nade towards Jimbo's direction. Will not connect. Make safe the barrel. Smoke the cross. Make your play. Thing about this is Jimbo is forward, and there already are a couple of the tags onto the bomb carrier of Zapdius. Venom cutting off mid-map. Yeah, great stuff here. But that said, a response is made. The trade comes through for a 3v3. Zapdius trying to plant, but Venom looking to challenge early. Gets a read onto both of them. The first one will fall, but stepping off the bomb, Zapdius will make sure we stay 2v2. The bomb did not get planted, though.
Yeah, Gravity's in a position where he could stop the bomb from going down again. They have no idea. Tom is here, and he finds Zap. Glowfrosty's like, whoa, he's right in front of me. And now he realizes he's in a bit of trouble. They should know that Frosty's playing back here, as he's going to go hunting. He's able to find the trade after a bit of time, but now he's got to go retrieve the bomb.
And Paul's changing the angle. However, he's giving him some space to actually get a free plant off. Paul now coming quickly. Bomb planted. Glowfrosty, what direction do you go? Blindly inside the B site. He gets the sights up to the correct angle, but Paul ready for it. Able to tally his 3rd elimination, winning the 1v1, and with that, Team Raw take the 2nd round.
Wow, that's good recovery. I mean, I was looking back on that round. If Team Raw lost it, I was going to think it was a little interesting that Jimbo had went inside of the site with an automaton. Usually you expect one of your sub players to at least be close so that you can kind of have that close battle engagement be a little bit more in your favor if it does end up taking place. But
that's true.
Ultimately, does decide to go with the automaton, loses the battle. Good recovery from his teammates, and then Gravity finding that window to push through and get that kill is what opens up a lot of the site, and also drops the bomb there again and has to be retrieved. So Paul able to find the clutch. Big one-on-one for him. 3-0, close to a glide bomb as Team Raw going to be up 2-0.
This heavy stack coming over right through mailroom.
Oh!
The lineup! Jimbo holding the trigger. Trades out 2 for 1. The entire Villain setup defensively was trying to win mailroom, and Jimbo's not done.
Jimbo
Takes the head off of Frosty. And now Jintroid's like, dudes, what? 1v3 needs a defuse, playing from the opposite side of the map.
Oh, that stings. Oh, that stings so bad. A trade needed to be there, and it isn't. And now Jintroid is going to be all the way in the back. And based off player number 3, Gravity, playing his life, I think realizes he might be lingering back here somewhere. And I think now he realizes as well. No time on the clock here. 15 seconds. Don't want to feed another kill. He's going to have to jump off or more or less just suicide outside the map here. So 3-0 for Team Raw. And that one is all Jimbo.
Dude, it's just the fact that Team Raw are in a position to understand that, hey, we cannot get lazy in mailroom. Like, we got to keep the guns up just in case there's an aggressive push. You don't see it too often like that, by the way, where you get an offense or defensive team that tries the 3-stack in to take mailroom like that. So the fact that they're aware of the potential of that happening and Jimbo just holds down a trigger to line up 2, and then the most impeccable kill was the 3rd one, to be candid. It's unbelievable for Team Raw. Essentially guarantees the round from there. And Jimbo, oh my goodness, he makes Glow Frosty look like he's never played COD before. Beams him off of a Godheady, and now an early 4v3 for Team Raw again.
Now he's one off of a glide too. It's going from bad to worse right now. Villains are just not in a good position. They're on the attack. They're going to try to make a move by A, but the problem doing this late in the round is you have no idea how many people are in here. It is just going to be Venom, but Paul X going to be close, and now they know for sure. They're starting to retake the site. Venom is going to shrug Zaptius off, but Jintroid opens up onto Paul in the back, and they still know Venom is now isolated inside.
But they're not coming to punish that isolation as of yet. Still worried about maybe reinforcement kills coming over through courtyard outside of statue. Venom looking for some timing and actually just runs into the trail arms of Zaptius, who was waiting for that playthrough. Jimbo, holy, for a second, thought he broke a camera, was going to isolate, but Villains do come back after the early first blood was tallied against them. They worked the A site nicely. Just solid patience here, largely from Villains, to make sure they could capitalize around the A site.
He's shooting a little different right now. I mean, just the 180 hip fire doesn't get the kill, but it's just the fact that he reacts that fast. And it is also another big one here as well. You have to give Villains a little bit of credit for shutting down the streaks and making sure that no glide bombs are coming into play. I don't believe Paul earned his. He's only got 3 kills, obviously, so he certainly didn't. Jimbo died on 4, so at least that is something to take away for as far as a positive. Zaptius, he is going to bring that MP40 inside of the site, opens up the doors, starting to cook some nades out. He might be able to find Venom with this, but he's been able to push up and actually dodge it.
They actually missed an opportunity here, do Villains, and if you're not careful, you could get caught inside of B. So I'm actually really happy to see Zep kind of back away with Glow Frosty as the first blood exchange kind of comes once again through mailroom. Jimbo tallying 1, Glow Frosty the other. Bomb now making its way forward. Good clearance, good patience. Glow Frosty outside. Going to be matched by Gravity. Bomb planted. And it's Jintroid 1v3 as he moves forward. Good isolation, but does not win the shots. My God, dude. Jimbo just does not miss, man.
He doesn't miss, and it's just the teamwork of Team Raw where it just feels like they're breaking down Villains in a lot of these rounds where, like, that was, even 3v3 up until the point where, Glow Frosty comes up, tries to peek through the window, wants to get him off the bomb. Gravity's right there, has his trade, even if he finds the kill. It's just everyone watching over one another to cover their exits, to cover the plant. It's just the basic fundamentals of S&D, right? That, that I'm overanalyzing, I suppose, at the moment, but it's just nice to see because of the teamwork. And 4-1 is currently the tally. Team Raw, man, they are just looking a little bit different right now. And Villains did find success at A last time. See if they can do it again.
The thing about this is it's completely closeted into this A train station. They've got just crossing angles through mid. You don't really get a read if anyone's coming around the backside for the flank or if they're reinforcing from the front. You just don't have a lot of reads here. You just got to kind of hope and pray that you're able to pick apart players inside the site cleanly. And Zaptius had the awareness to spam the top side of the closet inside the side room. But as Venom takes a double, the collapse is pretty simultaneous. And Team Raw, just showcasing something that there's just no response to. Villains are just, I feel like they're just getting trapped and pinned up into bad situations more often than not.
I think that is part of it. I mean, the blood's coming through as well. They're always, numbers disadvantage as well. Like, it's just being tallied up at the moment. And now Team Raw, I mean, Venom, he's one off a glide, might not even be needed. You're up 5-1. You can get the job done here. They've been making a lot of their offensive pushes over to B. I like this. They're going to change it up. Attack A. It is only going to be one player. Actually, we're just going to do a little wrap around the stairs. And the timing here. Jintroid got to be frustrated with that one. And now A is completely open. And, well, that's a little over-aggressive. Glowfrosty punishes, and Team Raw will be punished for the play, as it's going to be a 1v3 now for Jimbo, and he's not allowed the opportunity.
Blind counters is all that is right there. It's villains who want to take an aggressive stance over towards B, which they've done time and time again defensively, which is why I kind of like the call for Team Raw to try to do something a little bit crazy. You've got a huge lead, huge leader's advantage. Try to take them by surprise by hitting through statue, and it does pan out initially. Problem is, it took a little while to get that first kill, and then, as you had mentioned, Glowfrosty just has to hold his ground, and fortunately tallies the double. That's really the round difference right there. If Glowfrosty falls, that whole defense is just in shambles. I mean, you're on the opposite side of the map. You don't know if they're going to hit B or A, but, just a really good double from Glowfrosty to keep villains in the map. Spam shots from Jintroid through the smoke. Do connect at least onto one player. And for villains, that's good information to say, okay, we know for a fact that someone's crossed in towards A. Why not try to do that same opening setup where we smoke and then hit over towards the B site? Nice kill from Zap. Jimbo had the beat on him. Didn't make a difference. Zap now can plant.
And Jimbo is one of the players that plays usually around B defensively. So if they can get this bomb down, they should have a good idea that no one else might be close. But 2 players stacked inside of the site. Fire's going to try to slip away. Looks like he has been able to do so successfully. So already 35 seconds left on this clock. And Paul X is going to be able to find Zap now 3v3.
Glowfrosty's playing the clutch position backside warehouse with Venom. Cuts off mid-map. Jintroid's looking for the trade. He can't find Venom. And so now, Glowfrosty, his position will be known. Flank coming deep from Gravity. That'll be an easy trade. And it's all about the 2v1 towards the site. Do you have enough time to kill here? Not the case. Venom finds Jintroid lurking on the docks. And that will be enough for Team Raw to punch home a map 2 win, 6-2. And villains, they're one map away potentially from getting nothing on the day. They might finish the day 0-6.
I mean, it just feels like a lot of what Team Raw are doing is just reading villains like they're the morning paper here, Alan. It's just incredibly done. I mean, it's just like every single round, they're just in the right place at the right time. They're always in close proximity to the point where they're playing for trades. And, we saw in that moment there in the final round where Venom gets a kill and he slips away and Jintroid can't get that trade. And that's the key differences when we talk about Search and Destroy, where you're not able to, equal up the numbers or put yourself back into that numbers advantage after your teammate drops. And just great reads. Gravity comes around the back. Venom hits the front, realizes, well, there's only one place you're going to be, and has them. So, I mean, Team Raw, 6-2, looking strong. Definitely bouncing back after that rough series they started out with for their first match of the night.
It's just borderline a little puzzling. I think you look at this villain's roster, and there's so much success across each of the 4 individually. And I think, you look at the collection of this 4 and you say, maybe not the most synergistic roster compared to others that are carrying over from the Cold War year, at least in pieces, if not in full. And you kind of hope that there's somebody who's able to kind of step up and take control of this team. And, I think you're right. You mentioned at one point, like, you didn't want to be overcritical on the Search and Destroy, but I think you were in the right to kind of claim the fact that it just does not feel complete right now for villains. And it makes you kind of curious because this villains team got through as the 14th seed, the number 3 and the number 6 off of qualifiers. And again, it's a small sample size because the qualifying seeds are based off of 2 tournaments, but man, they had only made 1 Sunday Cup, and for them to go through the number 3 squad, you thought that, okay, maybe they're starting to hit form, but not the case. As we take a look over their opponents who have been looking super solid, we got Gravity, Paul, Jimbo, Venom. As we mentioned kind of in passing, this was last year's Wester team at the beginning of the year, save Jimbo, who is filling in for what was Zaptius. So, is he going to fill that missing piece? You may even argue, just based on this 1-for-1, that he's improved it.
I think so. I mean, it just looking at the way Jimbo was playing in the first map, with a sub, with an AR, it doesn't matter, showing us that he can actually play a bit of this flex role here in Vanguard, and has been electric. And I mean, it's not like we had, a bad year of Jimbo last year. Like, he was also fairly consistent. He was playing obviously a lot with Sib at the time. And was one of the top prospects. Just didn't really get a chance to finish out the year, with everything that ended up coming through. So now that I think that he's back with a solid squad, just a lot of chemistry that's already built in. I mean, it really does feel like he's just coming in here like a glove. It's like exactly we were talking about earlier in EU with Beans, right? Coming into that roster. It feels like it's the same situation here where he's just got to come in. He just needs to do his job, fill in the missing pieces. That's exactly what he's doing. And you know, this is a squad where you feel like a lot of these guys, you know, should be brought either back up to the CDL, or, you know, at least given one of their very first opportunities. So it's been a treat to watch these guys. I mean, they're just playing clean Call of Duty, Alan. Like that is simply the analysis. It is just clean Call of Duty.
And the craziest thing is we look back over our series layout to kind of get a grip of where villains would have to go to get the reverse sweep. Team Raw was knocked into the lower bracket in qualifiers round 1 and had to really clutch up through that lower bracket. I mean, they went through a number of tough opponents. And the thing about it was, like, looking at their average placements when this team had formed, it was like, these results are not what you expect for this roster. And once they got sent to the lower bracket in the first round of the elite qualifiers, it was like, maybe this team just isn't working. Maybe there's something synergistically going wrong.
Yeah.
But they turned like a negative into a positive. Like, all right, yo, let's clutch up. Let's qualify. We'll make the God run happen. And they have. And who knows, maybe something was learned in that run about this team as far as the trust, the chemistry that comes along with bringing in, I won't say a new fourth, but, you know, in pieces, yeah, kind of a new fourth. And boy, have they turned what was a glorious run in the lower bracket into a show here. They had the reverse sweep in their first series, winning a map 5, and now potentially 3-0 on the card. That's Gavudu for map number 3. Team Raw did win this map mode combo versus Texas Nation, where on the other hand, Villains didn't take a round versus UYU on this map mode combination. That face you just made said everything.
Yeah, got to see what you're leading towards here. You're framing this up, and it's like, well, it's not a real good storyline to bring this one back in reverse sweep fashion for Villains, is it? It's, you know, the cards are stacked against them right now. They haven't had a good showing on this map mode. Team Raw have, so you're obviously going to be looking at these guys as the favorites coming in, and I mean, rightly so, especially after the first map. Like, as much as it's a different game mode, we're playing control over hardpoint. A lot of the same fundamentals take place, where your ARs are still going to be slaying for you. It's still going to be about battling them out of the power positions, and, you know, not to harp on the ARs so much here for the side of Villains, but I didn't see enough from them to really dictate too much control on the map or give their subs opportunities to be able to push in and effectively break or get into spots where they can be annoying and really play their life. You know, we just didn't really see enough of that. Yeah, they only had their real spree near the end after, you know, Team Raw were only like 20 points away from closing out the map here. So it's tough to take a lot of positives away besides what we've seen from these guys in the past. We know that they have been, you know, on these big stages before. They have been in these big games before where they've been able to bring it back. But against a team like Team Raw that's playing so consistent, so crisp, it's hard to make the argument, Alan.
Time to flip a switch if you're Villains. That's just it. Because there's not a lot for us to pull off of from these first 2 maps to sit there and say, this is what you have to do. And you've shown us already to put up a fight versus Team Raw squad. You got to flip a switch. We have to see something almost completely different here from Villains. We'll see. It'll be Villains starting things off this time on the offense, and look at the passive setup from number 1, number 4. Glowfrosty and Fire just watching mid-map. There's not going to be a lot of initial offensive pressure here at A. And honestly, for Villains, it kind of feels like they're just playing for kills in weird spaces at the moment. So Venom's got a nice position up top. Does get Red tagged up. Up the slather is Zap. And that's going to lead to maybe an opportunity here for Villains to actually see the zone. We're already 45 seconds through, and they haven't even touched the zone yet.
Zap does find the 2, and now will throw his body, and I think they know exactly where that player. Jintroid went to clean him up. Jimbo was just trying to lay down, like to get some of his health back. So they do get a bit of space, but can they deal with Paul and Venom, who are here on the collapse? And, well, look at this collapse. They got Zap kind of sandwiched in between the point. He will be able to back up, but not for long. What a plays. I mean, that was all Paul and Venom, excuse me, that came through, found that clear, and made sure that they did not get a second pick of progress.
I wish you could see my face right now. I don't understand why Villains are playing this so passively. You've got 30 seconds on the clock, and we've seen a total of 18 kills. I mean, Glowfrosty, who was watching that mid-cross, has only had 2 engagements. And so thank goodness Jintroid's getting active and finding some good eliminations, because now he's made at least a little bit of space to work with, maybe stall this clock at B, but it's not a great sight to try to set yourself up for to get a full extra 60 seconds. And even with the life lead, like, yeah, you're finding efficiency on the kills, but you gotta remember the clock is a win condition in this mode.
It is. And you only have 14 seconds, and you have to stay on the zone for just about the remainder of this side, but they do have presence on B and A. And Jintroid is actually clearing out a lot of space at the front. 7 in a row, fully streaked out. That's a nice spree from him. Be able to try to give his team a bit of life and work back into this map. This could be the A zone. We'll see if they decide to hit it. Player 6 is moving up. Venom's going to try to give this a shot here, and he is able to clear out one.
It's just, you don't have any time. I mean, the A zone is really close to being captured, but all it takes is one good elimination here and the round is over. And you've got now Gravity stalling off the reinforcement, so the third tick, just barely gets there in time.
Wow.
Jintroid stays alive for literally a fraction of a second long enough. But you go underneath 60 seconds, it's 11v6, and you still haven't dealt with Gravity, who's still zoning off your spawn.
I mean, we said someone needed to flip the switch. We were hoping it was the team as a whole, but Jintroid certainly has.
Jintroid.
13 and 5. Saves the entire round here, and because you have 2 ticks, as you mentioned, this is doable, and they're going to invest the streaks really early on. They're going to get a lot of info off of this, which is one of the keys. They deal with the player. Outer on the beach. They know one now is in the flak tower, or rather, flak gun, but they're going to be able to now find the kills here as they got 20 seconds to try to make this happen.
Hiding in the corner is Venom. No one has seen him in this position yet. Gets the easy first. Zapti is caught in between a number of different Team Raw players, but does sneak the kill. Cannot get on to delay the clock. So now 4v4. Only 8 seconds on the clock, and, well, as Gravity spawns up, he's just going to stay in spawn right now. So they're all just get activated if I need to. The answer seems to be he will not need to unless Fire can do something crazy, and nearly does. But it's just, look, I'm going to look silly because it's a 1v2 with like a second left on the clock, and it's winnable. But imagine if villains just play a little bit more forward off of the initial set of kills and delay the clock a little bit longer. Then you can actually use that life count to actually matter. I don't know, man. Glowfrosty finds a single kill, and you only get 10 engagements. It just feels very strange considering the other tempos and pacings that we've seen from both Europe and North American Challengers teams and CDL teams play this map at.
And they invested the streak there at the end. I think the strafing run should still be allowed, or still should be in. But really tough to find great strafing runs in this game. Now right away, engagements come in. First one there for Zaptius. As things are going to slow down a little bit. Jimbo finding a couple kills. Zaptius as well. So good defense across the board. You got Paul X up top, however. You got to deal with him. And Paul almost goes to the pistol for 3. But Zap, keeping that spree alive, will be able to deal with the majority of the players on Team Raw.
And the trades are quick, and with that, now Team Raw can start to make some influence happen over the A site. Nice predictive shots from Venom through the shutters. Also, see Zaptius down low, little jumping peek, gets the second elimination. And now you've even got Paul X starting to zone forward. He was on 2 before dropping. First tick of progress confirmed. Villains do look like they want to go to try to contest this, though. Need the kills to happen through the middle of the map, and as Jimbo finds elimination, he will continue to streak forward, looking to maybe get a play over towards B. That's denied, but the defensive consideration will essentially mean no chance to get in to contest this third tick. It's all about seeing if you can find exit kills if you're villains.
Venom now one off a glide as well. Oh, he's not ready for that gunfight. Jintroid finds a crucial trade. Trying to keep the streaks at a minimum. Paul will end up finding Jintroid now as the attention starts to lean over towards the beach side. Got to find Zaptius, who's been able to do quite a bit of damage here all by himself. Fire gets taken down, though, as soon as he peeks, and now 3 players are going to drop. Jintroid, the last one really here, try to shut things down while his teammates come off spawn.
He sees one, but stuns himself. That'll be the end of it. 13 playing up against 20. Team Raw on the attack forward. They'll get to the zone cleanly. And they've got an opportunity to actually zone off these connectors. These little mid-crosses. Glowfrosty finally gets his second kill in 2 rounds. Also able to tally the third. That will actually keep most of this B zone safe. And a nice route being hit by Jintroid. That'll be good for a free kill under Gravity. Good repossession of the map here for villains.
Fire from the side. Knows someone's close, but won't be able to keep the gun up. So now playing up against 9 lives. Team here for Team Raw. Will be cut down as Zaptius starting to look a little better here. Picking up some of the slack with that automaton. Jintroid comes right up the side, almost for a double. That could have slowed things down and maybe even in a better spot to win the round. But Jimbo's recovered. He's found 2. He's opened up a couple players, and now everyone is basically coming off spawn or is on the point for villains.
Gotta win gunfights here for Glowfrosty. He's the one that's on the B zone with this AR. It's been ice cold for him. Doesn't even need to. Never mind. You got good nade support coming from above. Paul deep on the beachfront. Nothing there. 17 seconds to play. Good again for villains to take away the middle of the map. 5v8. The clock will be the biggest opponent here for Team Raw. Stun will actually check this play through Concrete. Gravity, last one kind of left in his position. Really no chance to get the kills nor touch the zone. So Villains will sustain through this round, but it does feel like a lot of it came from Jintroid through the middle of the map once again. Yeah, there was some good help this round, but Jintroid single-handedly hit a couple of routes, and that's enough to keep a lot of the pressure from Team Raw away from that beachfront zone. And thankfully so, because Glowfrosty has not been able to get into a position to do anything this game.
No, he hasn't, and Zaptius has picked up a little bit, for that. I think he had a couple of big moments when he was playing near the boat, finding a couple double kills, just trying to keep his team in it. But I mean, yeah, 3 and 14 across 2 rounds, going into round 3 as an AR here on Gavutu. Can't harp on it too hard, but you need to see a little bit more out of him coming in, especially on the attack. And Villains have opted in for this push over to B, but we know how difficult this is to pull off because you have to win tough gunfights right through that mid-cut, just like this, and Gravity finds that first one.
Yeah, this setup to try to get over to B first is very scary. Kills are coming through. I mean, Austin, tell me, am I crazy for thinking that this is just absolutely backwards from what we normally see on offenses?
Yeah, on this map, like, we get Tusken, right? Because the map is a lot close quarters. Like, you can make some of these route plays, but on this map, everything's open. ARs are just going to cut you to pieces when you go through these mid-cuts.
I mean, the thing I can at least say for Villains is, like, when you do hit up the flat gun first, if that's not your position to go towards B, it does give you a free second respawn to get to A, simply due to the fact that you've got a top high position first, before Team Raw's defense can get there. But, like, you've got 33 seconds on the clock. Like,
yeah.
And even if you get a clean 60 here, do we really think 90 seconds is enough to capture a full B zone? I have so many questions about what this offensive setup has been for Villains, and I'm not trying to make this come across as like a negative thing. I'm honestly curious because it's obviously predetermined. Like, they think that this is something that clearly can work, and it technically did the first round out. It's very puzzling to see this kind of a setup.
I agree. And, well, we'll see if they do manage to get that extra minute of time, Paul, with those shots there. No cover for him. Fire at the heady. We'll take him off. I think he's got the call out. That one is close on the tank. He finds it as well. And, well, as you touched on, there's no time. I mean, even then, you've already used up the majority of your lives if you were to get the additional minute. And it's all blue in that kill feed there. That is, a good 8 consecutive kills near the end as they get pinned in the back of their spawn.
I'm currently rubbing my forehead and scratching my head right now.
I thought the jaw was hitting the floor. It's the other way?
Well, it's not utter shock. I'm just in this state of just this haze of confusion about why this is a predetermined setup. You're putting yourself in, it's just, again, there may be opportunities, and I'm not trying to say that this is just bad from Villains. It's just you're putting yourself in such a bad situation off the clock alone, which I don't think we've ever seen a B capture on offense in this map, at least as of yet, that has been done with like more than 7 seconds on the clock. It just feels like it always comes down to the wire. So you're kind of putting yourself in the back foot by not having enough clock to play with because you're taking so long trying to get towards A. It's very confusing. We'll definitely have to talk about this later, away from the game that we're getting right now, which currently is 2-1. Setup coming through for A, even exchange in the mix. Jimbo playing his life. And Villains do have a chance to contest this, even if there is a touch, which definitely seems to be the case for Jintroid shutting it down.
Only 50 seconds on the clock. Venom up top is fully streaked out if they were to cap this, and it's a good read there onto the player coming up the stairs. Fire's going to drop. Reads the second. Glowfrosty can't find value. Still only 6 and 20 right now. And now that you've cleared out everyone around the point, on the point, this is your chance at being able to start to capitalize on some of the ticks of progress. That second tick well on the way. Venom about to overlap his streaks, but it will be Glowfrosty to make sure he does not find another 3-piece here, as that second tick is about halfway in for Team Raw.
I was going to say the 2 kills, though, from Venom were so important because the defense has to funnel in to make sure they keep contesting A, and there was nearly a route hit on that mid-cut to potentially just completely foil the defensive reinforcements. So a big elimination on DePaul coming through now gives Villains a chance to dominate the front side of this A zone. 17 seconds on the clock. Nades becoming a problem as far as how exactly do Team Raw get here. And I'm not gonna lie, I think, yeah, it's like just stay in your spawn here. You've got such a huge life lead you have to feel like after the first 4 rounds. Don't give anything away. and just set yourself up for what should be a round 5 defense. We'll see. It'll be close.
I will say that is a pretty clean round here for Villains.
Yeah.
Finally, it's nice to see Glowfrosty got a lot more involved near the end of that one. You know, he was like 6 and 20 at the beginning. I think he ended 11 and 20 roughly. So he's finding a little bit more value on the map. And yeah, now the big question, who has offense coming into it?
Yeah,
and there it is. It's going to be Villains, and you have to play against 2 streaks as well. I'm fairly certain Venom still has that strafing run and still has the glide.
And if they're aware of this, that means that Villains can't go B off the rip here. Because really, if you're Team Raw, you do have the ability off those streaks. Those will be your defenders of the B zone. So, okay. A little bit more further forward come Villains. Zaptius in the middle of the map. Jintroid up top. An opportunity to find kills and then immediately get onto the zone, which is the first time we could say that. Jintroid, good elimination. Fire, good trade. And now we can stall the clock and start playing this a little bit more naturally. Good kills through mid. Villains a chance to get some progress here in the first tick of progress at A.
And Jintroid, you can see on the right side of your screen as well, does have the strafing run. So maybe something also to utilize if they can get this. But the setup here, not really looking solid because they just let someone run right through the middle of the map. Zaptius has to clean it up and he gets shut down. So they don't even get the tick of progress here, Alan. And now time is certainly going to be in the conversation where you have to battle out of your spawn and you have to use so many lives to usually do it.
I think you got to use a streak here, if I'm being honest, if you're Villains, just to get out of spawn and give yourself a chance to get back over towards A. Gravity was here in round number 1, and nobody could deal with them, so a good pickup for Fire early. Problem is now Paul's starting to streak with the MP40. One more shot into Zap will do the trick, but it's the pistol in response that gets the job done. That's full clearance, by the way. You should be counting numbers saying that that's 3. Jimbo's the 4th, but as the respawn comes through, Venom will get forward, possess the ship, and with 20 seconds on the clock, Villains have one chance, and it needs to be super successful. You've got to clear the point and capture it on this attempt. The kills just are not allowing them to do that. Gravity cleaning everything up with Paul. The longtime duo will essentially put nail in the coffin here in round number 5. What a weird Gavudu control, brother. I'm in a daze right now.
Yeah, it was, I mean, very rarely did we see even the A zone in full get captured, let alone B even be targeted. But I think, you know, Villains deciding to make like what was just a Hail Mary call to go to B in that second or third round, whatever round it was just, you know, so taxing on them, where they had given up a lot of their lives as well, which, you know, played a pretty important factor when we get to the round 5. And you know, as well as being able to not really stall the clock, which is something that we always talk about in Control. And when you have such a slow start like that, and you've already given up 40 seconds to game clock, and then you have to start battling out of your spawn, you're always on the back foot, and you have, you know, too many steps to really pursue in order to get close to the zone. So it was really tough, man. It's a really tough one to watch. You know, Team Raw, I feel like are super solid. They're really good. We give them a lot of credit for a reason, but you could definitely see a lot of the fundamentals for, you know, this Villains roster, you know, currently struggling right now within some of their game modes.
That's going to put them in a really bad spot in the table as well for this round robin. Just going not just 0-2, but you mentioned the map count. The European, it's the map count. So if there are head-to-head tiebreakers, them being 0-6 in the map count for the day, I don't want to say it puts them in relegation already, but it definitely puts them back against the wall early, which is never something that you want. So we take a look back over this series set, and really it was Team Raw from start to finish. A couple of good moments, though, I will say, on Gavudu, where we did see Villains kind of respond. Just kind of got a little bit too far behind too early in that first set of hills. The search and destroy, though, it just, man, it just felt like Villains not really able to find the value they were looking for when it comes to using players like Glowfrosty at long range, you know, with whether it's off of a sniper or if it's off of just automaton. Didn't really find a lot of value there. And then the very strange Gavudu control, which will be worth rewatching just because there were a lot of questions that do need answered. But, you know, Team Raw to get the 3-0, big news for them. They finished the day 2-0 up. And, well, and like we mentioned, Villains are just in a really bad spot right here. You have to hope that tomorrow is a much better day for them.
You have to hope, and I mean, it really needs to be, right? It's one of those moments where you can't go 0-4, you can't really go down 1-3. It really does put you at the bottom, you know, when you do talk about those relegations. So tomorrow needs to be a lot better. Team Raw, on the other hand, I feel like there were a lot of positives. I think they're, you know, their Gavudu coming in on hardpoint, on the control as well. Looked like they were very stable the whole way through, always knowing where they had to be. Right place, right time. I mean, they had such a lead in the Gavudu hardpoint as well that they kind of let up on the gas near the end, where we saw Villains really worked their way back in. So I mean, very impressed, and that's also with the way that they were able to come back 0-2 and reverse sweep in their first set. So I'm sure these guys are very happy with their first day here in Challengers Elite.
Yeah, man. So many questions. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. The thing about it is, we didn't talk a lot about this after we were mentioning the 8 teams that got qualified, but there were a number of teams that we expected to show up and be a part of this top 8 that are not here, which goes to show that this North American region is all over the place. You've got no Team Canada, no Trash Bros, no Real Madrid. I mean, I would say those 3 right there were, at least for a lot of people looking at their bracket, they were, they should be fine. They should be able to get in, especially like a lot of that Team Canada squad, by the way, like they won in Modern Warfare and didn't miss an elite stage last year. So for them to find themselves in a position to not even get into the qualification matches is puzzling, especially considering that you've got teams like Villains and, UIU and them that really did make major upsets occur through that upper bracket. So, man, it's one of those things that today was not the day for Villains. And as I mentioned before, you have to hope that whatever was going your way on Saturday through the qualifiers shows up tomorrow, because you need to start stealing some maps somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start stealing some maps, start winning some series. But just to come back to that point that you were making there, Alan, I feel like that is why North America is always so fun to watch, because it does feel like we get a different 8, like just about every single elite stage, which is always enticing, which is always entertaining. You get to see new faces, new players. You get to see a lot of upsets. Like, how insane is it that the majority of BBG, Pentagram getting picked up, to 100 Thieves with that squad, is not coming back in. They lose to Kismet in map number 5, their old teammate the year previous. Like, there's so many of these little storylines because of how much rosters shake up from stage to stage and year to year here in the challenger scene for North America, that it creates, these little grudge matches, creates these just additional storylines that are always fun to talk about, especially when they're unable to make it in. So, I mean, yeah, it's been really insane. But coming back to your point, the teams that struggled today, they got to find a bounce back. They got to go back. They got a VOD review, and they have to make sure that they're on the same page, because we look at some of these guys like Will Frosty was slaying last year, right? Like, this is really uncharacteristic performance for him. And Modern Warfare as well was extremely consistent. Had a great start to the year through Cold War. It's it's definitely heartbreaking to see some of these guys just struggle early on, but I'm very certain that they're going to be able to find the bounce back. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Let's take a look over just kind of verbally some of the results that we've had so far in North America. We started our day with Bear Claw and Path to Pro. And hey, it was a very successful series, I think, from both sides. Path to Pro inching out a 3-1 win, but a bit of a surprise in some regard. 18 and Cracked is a team that has a lot of expectations after their performances through the cups. They actually got beat 3-1 by whatever it takes. So interesting result there. And some of them, were pretty, I won't say that, actually the map wins for whatever it takes were very tight. 6-5 round 11, 3-2 Gavudu Control, 250 to 222 Hardpoint. They lost the opener 123 to 250. But again, kind of going back, and I hate to keep harping on the Villains 0-3 loss, but UIU came out and put a walloping on them. Like, this UIU team is looking really scary right now. And I wasn't sure what exactly to expect from them. Any thoughts over any of those results that we kind of already seen?
Yeah, I think UIU is actually looking really strong. I think that's just one of the big teams that I was looking at that I was like, okay, they're certainly going to come into the qualifier, and I think they're going to make it in. And, obviously they did. They looked really solid while doing it. I've been big on that team because I feel like Scrap in particular is someone that I've been watching out for, since he didn't really have a strong finish to the year, but had a great start to the year.
Yep.
And a lot of that had to do with the fact that, Mohawk went separate ways. That's when he had ended up pairing up with that roster that ended up winning the entire Challengers Elite near the end, as well as Challenger Finals. So I was looking at Scrappy to see if he was even going to come back into this year and compete, because I know I've been watching over him for a very long time in the S&D scene, and I feel like he's found a great footing with the people like Phantoms, who is someone who's really underrated but a really solid AR, and just overall that squad as a whole. Like, I want to see them go up against Path to Pro just to see how the S&Ds take place. You know what I mean? I think in particular, I think that'll be a really fun kind of chess game. So that's definitely one squad that I've definitely been watching out for, that I think has a lot of potential and could find some big upsets versus the top seeds.
Well, the one series that I kind of stepped away from was the Texas Nation reverse sweep versus Team Raw. We're actually going to be jumping in with Texas Nation as they try to finish out their series versus Path to Pro. This is the current layout as far as what has happened thus far. It was a 250 to 117 win. That was going to Texas Nation, and then a 3-1 here And then 6-2 in the search and destroy is what we're getting reports on, at least of how things have gone thus far. It's Berlin for the map 4, map 5. And look, this Texas Nation team, very curious, because it's a lot of what was old Enigma 6 back in the day during the Black Ops 4 year. Remember, they finished 4th that year at finals. That event I feel like nobody talks about.
I know.
And they've got Havoc with them now. So this Texas Nation team looking pretty solid and pretty strong. Of course, they were sent to the lower bracket in surprise form during the qualifier, and they find themselves in a tough battle here versus Path to Pro, but a small edge for them.
And I'm pretty sure even Mayhem, who was on that team, is also coaching them, I think, coming in this year as well. So
he is, yeah. Shout out to Mayhem.
It's a really fun roster that, it's a blast from the past, more or less, coming in here as the number 1 seed. And, did look like it was a little shaky during the qualifier, to be fair, right? Like, they did have to face up against Real Madrid in order to even get into the elite, and I think that was like a 6-4 finish on the Berlin S&D of all things, where we might end up going here again, pending Path to Pro are unable to close out this map number 4, or rather Texas Nation. I mean, this is definitely an exciting roster. Like I think a lot of people are talking about Kismet leaving BBG. I thought he had a terrific challenger finals that we were watching over him. Remember the plays he was making in S&D, Alan? We're like, wow, this is peak Kismet that we've seen all year. That inconsistency about Kismet, being hot and being cold, it felt like it totally went away in that grand final. And of course, he's here to try to prove it again now during Vanguard.
Yeah, Papa Kiz has been a force for so long, because the BBG storylines are great. The Paris Legion ones were kind of the same thing. But, when he was on Paris, it was like Kismet was either popping off or it felt like he was doing nothing. And I don't know how much of the fault of that was from Kismet individually, because that team just kind of had problems to the Modern Warfare year, like, in full. But it was just, there were moments and there were certain matches where that Paris Legion team would step up, and it's just like, okay, Kismet, you can definitely tell is feeling a different type of way today. Do not bet against Kismet. You might be able to bet against Paris, but don't bet against Kismet. That was kind of the whole moniker that we were living off of. So I'll be excited to see, what this team has as far as their ceiling is concerned, because they are riding high off of a couple of very strong recent results. But a tough matchup here versus Path to Pro, small edge. But this looks like it's been a good series so far, and I'm hoping that we do get a chance to see more of that, not just throughout this hard point on Berlin, potentially also see more of that high-tier search and destroy that we expect from Path to Pro if it does go to a 5th map.
Yeah, definitely the case here for us. Path to Pro looking good in the S&Ds, but they have to clean things up in the respawns. It's another drop in the control, right? Which is like exactly what I was touching on in the last series, where I still feel like that team is figuring out control as a whole. So hard points, I think, will be a lot closer for us. We'll see if they can do it, because we're getting ready to jump into it. It is Berlin. It's all about the rotations on this map, Alan. We keep hitting on it. It's really Berlin in a nutshell. If you're rotating first, if you're setting up first, especially for these important hills, you're likely going to come away with the win. But we also know how important the starts are, especially with P1 being one of those lockdown hills once you get control.
We'll see, because it's not just Kismet, it's the Greasy Gang. It's called Havoc, my dude. We have seen him. Heck, we had that wonderful call versus Team Canada where he just snuck through everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can't forget about that one there, bud.
No, you cannot, buddy.
So we'll see how things go. This time, Havoc, not nearly as greasy as much as it is just brute force. Good trades coming through. Though Brezzy does get stunned up, leaving maybe an opportunity here for Path to Pro to re-hit, but it's Kismet to follow up, making safe the train platform. And Texas Nation from the favorite spawns here around the first hardpoint have been clean through the first 25 seconds.
You can get so much time, like we're saying. So Path to Pro really need to find something here, and if they can force the spawns a little deeper. Prolute and Yeez both finding kills, and they're actually able to clear out the hard point. But look at player 3, he's actually come behind them, and that means that they actually flip. So I think a little bit of a misplay there from Mohawk, trying to see if he could get behind them, cut out the rotation. It forces out the flip of the spawns. Now that means that everyone is here for the side of Texas Nation on P2.
And I actually really like the play from Havoc to zone forward up towards lobby. You keep the dockside safe. The attempt to break through mailroom has to come from mid, which is not a spot you really want to be. It's all about holding angles from there once you're in mailroom, and they're all favorable ones, typically speaking. So Havoc on 3 has an automaton to work with, as the hit from the front is actually starting to grow some legs here for Path to Pro. Kismet bouncing back and forth, gets the first, reads the second, but Pro vests him, and as Spart is there to help, Path to Pro will establish at least a break for now.
Havoc already working on streaks. The glide is here. Strafing run almost there. And we'll get help there from Kismet. It cleans up too. And Texas Nation now numbers around the point. One last hit. Prolute wants to give it some time, but Kismet, oh, you thought he was maybe going to be able to line up all four in that kill feed. Not the case. Hill's neutral here for now, but Yeez wants to try to fight for the scrap time.
Yeah, Yeez, of course. Why not? You have to rotate through it anyways, right? So might as well just give it a good go. But for Texas Nation, it's a good lead for now with a good setup. But Path to Pro have done enough to at least contest some of that, what looked to be almost guaranteed time on the second hard point. But now the problem is, how do you break through? You've got a really good setup as Brezzy's watching the docks. You've got a player sitting topside fired. That's Kismet. And oh boy, trigger discipline executed. He's just waiting for his opponents to come right in front of him. Only gets one though, that's surprising. And with that surprise, Path to Pro, an opportunity maybe to try to break on in. Mohawk got 6 HP, tags up Havoc pretty considerably, and then Yeez gets activated for a double. The play from the front now. Prolute trying to hold off these window hits with Mohawk in. So far, so good. They even get a read on the player from the flank, but the problem is General's nade and AR will clean up 3, and that puts Texas Nation back on the hill.
Oh, it sure does. General almost there for all 4. Havoc puts the final bullets in Yeez, and that locks in the scrap time. That's also going to be 100 points, so we're going to be down just about over a full hard point. And Kismet already on the rotation, threatening the spawns in the back. Player 3 here, that's Mohawk. He spawns out, not going to be with his teammates, which means that there is a bit of a window for Kismet to try to flip out these spawns fully and influence the hill with his team.
Strikes being called in. This is Texas Nation saying, no holds barred, just go. Get this out of hand as fast as humanly possible. Kismet on the back, should block spawns here. Good kills from the front as well. And Havoc will even read that. Wait a second, we didn't actually fully put the spawns out. We know exactly where they're coming from, and oh boy, they've actually put them in a spawn trap right here. Brezzy and Havoc are just teeing up on them. There's no routes to hit. The only place that could come from is where Yeez is from the staircase, and Havoc is aware of it. A couple of shots will come through. Doesn't actually tally the elimination, but he does get a read on where 3 Path to Pro members are going to be coming from, as they do feel like they need to hit for this back 15 seconds.
Yeah, they do need to hit it. They need to make sure they're getting some time, and they have to kind of go the whole long route around through the P5 hill just to be able to get close enough to the point where they can contest the scrap time here. So they invest a lot, but they're now able to find quite a few consecutive kills in a row. 3 kills there for Prolute. Yeez with a big one, almost a snap onto the second, but General will make sure that the trade is in. And now Prolute working on some streaks of its own here on the 4 spree.
Good focus from Path to Pro to clear off this train station position. Use that as kind of a staging area, not just for the hard point, but also maybe if the kills go your way to try to flip the spawns around. Yeez very aware that Brezzy's nearby. Boink. Not to get the kill, nor the challenger down low. And Brezzy, who stays alive through the nade, turns his life into an elimination on the Spart. Big kills there for Texas Nation. Not a lot of time on the hard point, but look at the status of the map. It's yellow on the left side, which is good news as you start to turn your attention over towards the first hill in office.
He's able to find that first one. Just needs to play his life right now. Realizes the hill time not really going to be up for grabs, and he finds an unreal kill there on the General as well. And maybe this means he's just going to completely flood. If he goes all the way around through fire, he might be able to break open this play. But he's going to cut the staircase here. It's all about this first engagement. He finds Brezzy. Spartan finds the second. It does loosen up the defense, and it does allow Path to Pro to actually get inside of the hard point at office.
The thing about it is they were so close to flipping the spawns. They were not able to fully do that. So yes, the first 15 seconds, good from Path to Pro from the front. Pinch being set up as Yeez just pushes forward through statue. And now he'll hold his life as he realizes, hey, no one's actually hitting the hard point right now. I can just kind of deter this push as fast as humanly possible. 3 in a row for Yeez, finally dealt with. The hit for the side of Texas Nation now making its way in towards the hard point, but there are still so many blue arrows nearby, and they just spam through the choke points. Now we can definitely cementally say that Path to Pro dominated this hard point from the front. Great hold.
They sure have. It's just a lot of teamwork. It's just taking shots. Prolute drops down. He allows Mohawk to come through, who's got full health, and just perfect baiting and switching to find all those exchange kills. But now that they're back into it, let's see what they do on the rotation. Prolute goes all the way from behind. He's got his teammate with him. Yeez here to back him up. Into the mailroom we go. Prolute already earning himself a streak. 2 kills on this rotation. Just flies at Havoc. And that's a big one. Opens it up here. Still lots of members around for Texas Nation, but Prolute will finally end up dropping, and now Kismet comes in for 2.
Yeah, the problem there was Path to Pro didn't have a full read on where Texas Nation were holding from. They didn't really know where exactly around the hard point they were. It was mostly just kind of, let's just dive through, see if we can get trades in the corners. Not the case. The AR is just a little bit too good for Texas Nation. Still 28 seconds to play on the hard point. Hill still turning up in yellow. With that, the lead starts to grow once again for Texas Nation. Thing about this is Path to Pro do have a setup coming forward where they really want to be able to hold, getting forward for P3. Problem about it is Brezzy continues to find these eliminations, and if he can find one more, that glide bomb could just instantly be called in to try to open up the back as this hit starts to move forward towards lobby.
So down a hard point, you need a big hold. We'll see if General can play his life. He found that first one, but Havoc, he's on the point. He's contesting it. Nade's going out. He's got a bit of support. How about the teamwork now from Texas Nation? Brezzy watching over his teammate has allowed them to come in, but that close spawn firmly under contention from both squads. Brezzy goes on that 6-free, goes to the pistol. How is he still alive? It's finally Spart that runs in there to clean up the player, but oh my goodness, that was a very scrappy hill, and now it's Path to Pro that have a bit of control. Not for long.
It's just, as soon as you think that the numbers are going to be good, look at the kill feed. It's another 4-for-1 exchange. When Path to Pro have the setup that they want, it's not something that you would expect after watching this Path to Pro squad over the course of the first 4 cups in the qualifier. They're usually so good at making sure that their holds are resilient, and sure, they do end up locking on the scrap time, so you've got an even game, but I think you look at that from Texas Nation saying, all right, job done. We were able to contest from the front for long enough. We earned streaks in the process, and now you've got all 4 members focusing the attention to the rotation to new. Prolute, though, in the back. An opportunity to use this position to block, if not maybe even win spawns, depending on how the kill feed goes. And he's going to just move on forward. General, deep through train tracks, able to find the first kill. And then Yeez, this is not a gunfight that you want. He's trying to get chased down, but actually turns his attention to the hill, finds Brezzy. So this keeps the hard point neutral, and Yeez continues to finesse. My goodness, he just does not fall, nor does he really even get looked at. He's just so slippery.
Yeah, this is a big moment here from Yeez. Zone's got a lot in the front. See the streak come in, but it doesn't hit the mark. Brezzy gets the info, but I mean, it's for 20 seconds of hill time, and are they even going to be able to get into a position to actually secure it? Still 2 players at the back here of the train station, but Brezzy playing his life, only able to find 1. Now the spawn's flipping out there for Texas Nation. They're spawning back here throughout this B street on the docks, as everyone has to start setting up. You can already see, I think, a long rotation from Brezzy. He's probably going to go all the way around, maybe to fire, just to make sure they lock down spawns for the P1 hill and just keep things as scrappy as possible on P5.
Look, I was going to say this a couple of hills ago. Spart has had a atrocious start to this map, but if you remember Spart from Cold War, his slow starts.
I remember.
Oh boy, they don't stay around for long. As soon as he starts to get into the swing of things, that's when Path to Pro starts to dominate. He went from about -11 to now just -6 in about the span of 2 lives. Really heating things up is Spart. Does not get the best of Havoc, but a tight game. Trade should be there, and it is. Prolute makes good, stays alive, but it's Brezzy down low to make sure the trade is still there. Texas Nation, favored side of the map, and now a little bit of time here on the 5th hill.
Brezzy still having access to one of the streaks. Not sure if you're really going to have an opportunity to use it, but has that automaton. Certainly will try to use that and make the most of it. Only able to find 1. But again, information is here. But look at all those yellow arrows around that new hill that's about to pop here. Things are going to be very difficult for Path to Pro. They have to have a perfect break and coordinate it correctly. They're waiting for one another. We'll see if Texas Nation can defend it and hold off.
See, even though the arrows are here, they're not zoning the hill. They're all bunkered up. And the SMGs for Path to Pro just get around the sides, find the kills, and the trades are good. And I tell you this again, mark my words, if Path to Pro win this map, it's because Spart makes something stupid happen here in the next 2 hills. I guarantee you that. If they win this map, Spart is probably the catalyst and the reason why. But we'll see, because Texas Nation with these favored spawns get back in, and technically speaking, they can win the map right here. There's the stuns. Kismet not affected, just holds down the trigger to the MP40. Good for an elimination. One more, trying to come through. He's on the entry, able to contest. Can he find more than that, though? The answer, no. And, well, if there were to be that special moment from Spart, it would have to be right here, because there's not enough time to see another hill.
Oh, Prolute gets in there. And now 7 seconds left. Spart is there. You called it. We only find the second. Of course it's Spart, Allen. You set it up. And now he knocks it down. And we're going to at least 1 more hill, but Havoc is already here. However, he doesn't have a lot of support.
Oh, Prolute cannot get the turn, though. Havoc for the double. Brezzy's now here for the support, but Spart, he gets the double! Pistol in hand, not gonna find more. Has he given time for Yeez to get there? The answer, no. And Texas Nation will win map 4. But for a second, I thought I saw the
I
future.
know you did. I was about to call you a prophet. I was about to, I don't know, tell me the lottery numbers for tomorrow, Alan, whatever it is. Because that was insane with the way that Smart right here, right, goes to the pistol for a disgusting two-piece right there. And, you know, when I saw Spark come flying in through that door with another 2K in mail, I was like, oh boy, this is it. But Havoc, Kismet, they're enough to be able to hold on, make sure that they get the map win. But definitely made it exciting near the end, and Path to Pro brought it back a little bit, but it really was that rough start where they went down by about 80 points or so in that first rotation. That really did burn them there as we got to the final hills.
And the thing about it is, Texas Nation's tempo and pacing is almost one for one, like on the success stories that we've told throughout the day on Berlin Hardpoint. They're winning rotation time and time again. Every time that we transferred from P4 to P5, Texas Nation was already in a position once the fifth hardpoint opened to lock down that left side of the minimap, which puts them in a great spot for then a big money hill in the first. And every single time that they were at P1, they had spawns for it. I'm not going to say that's a one-for-one correlation to why they won, but they did find a lot of their time on that first hardpoint, even though Path to Pro in one of the instances did have a pretty successful hold from the front. So I think it's just the understanding of how to get yourself in a position to win the key objectives was just a little bit better that time around for Texas Nation. And, you know, yeah, you'd never love to see slow starts out of all-star players like Spart. And once he starts to pick it up, it's just a little bit too late because, yeah, I think you're right. That 80-point difference that we saw early on in the Berlin Hardpoint, I think, kind of dictates why the result was the way it was.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. We'll take a look at the series recap here for as far as everything that did take place. It was Texas Nation through the respawns all the way through, finding that first win. And then it was Path to Pro, where we kind of expect them to be strong in Search and Destroy, and rightly they were. A 6-2 victory. We saw that in the very first series up against Bear Claw as well, except that one was a tad bit closer at times. But when it comes down to Texas Nation and their slaying power and just their overall control on the map at times, it feels like it was maybe just a little bit too overwhelming there for Path to Pro this early on.
Indeed the case. Taking a look over some of the other results just as they're kind of coming through, we already mentioned that Texas Nation lost their first match, so this win is actually a massive one for them in the scheme of the pro point standings, or pardon me, just the overall table standings here for this round robin. Other results coming through, Whatever It Takes defeats UYU in 4, so Whatever It Takes is 2-0. And I want to say that them and Team Raw are going to be the only teams that are 2-0 to start things off. Not at all what I would have expected. And yeah, there it is. There's the results coming through. You see it. Bear Claw 0-2, but I will say this much, like, do not sleep on that Bear Claw team. They put up a heck of a fight versus Path to Pro. They unfortunately couldn't get things going versus 18 and Crack, though, which is what their second matchup was.
That's right. Couldn't get things going overall, but Villain struggling here, 0-2. Bear Claw Esports definitely, as you hit on it, I think is one of the surprises because, man, did they ever play Path to Pro really close, and felt like maybe they would have had enough to be able to kind of put up a win. So those two squads, you definitely need a good day for tomorrow, at least a win to stay in playoff contention, but two, to make sure that you're going to be in a much better spot. You don't have to start winning those head-to-heads or start 3-0ing map counts that you have a better map count overall, right? So it's very difficult to do consistently with all the teams that we currently have in the elite. But overall, man, this is a really solid day. I feel like throughout EU, we had a lot of great matches, couple of game 5s. We got to take our first look at some of these new guns, right? We got to see Mythics coming in. I feel like it was one of the big shouts coming out there for us. And overall, we got to see some strong squads come through with a really strong day in the very first one. But we still got plenty of weeks left. We're just getting started.
Brother, this is day one of a long series in 2022. But you're absolutely right. We absolutely got our whistle wet, if you want to call that. Litmus test definitely established, but this is just day number 1. A lot of fun action, as my partner in crime had mentioned, but for North America, 2 unexpected teams maybe sit themselves at 2-0. Tomorrow, we see day 2 of the round robin. Catch it for Europe at 2 p.m. Eastern right here on the COD Challengers YouTube. We'll see you then.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Man, what the